Chapter 1838. Faced with Uncle Xiang who was pressing him, Wen Xiao could not think of any reason to continue pretending. "Thank you for your concern, Uncle Xiang. I'm fine. It's just that. Uncle Xiang, didn't you go out to do something important? Why did you suddenly come back? You didn't delay your important matters, did you?" "As expected of my good brother. Even at this time, you're still concerned about my important matters." Uncle Xiang grinned and said, "Ha ha ha, my matters are trivial and not worth mentioning at all. Brother One-Eyed, your matters are more important." "Me?" Wen Xiao was startled and said with a blank face, "I'm fine." Behind Uncle Xiang, Ding Kai, Jing Chu, and Tian Lu, these three experts, had already formed a circle around Wen Xiao. Uncle Xiang shrugged his shoulders and said, "One-Eyed Bro, I'm afraid you've already figured out everything you need to know. Has the person in the communication signal monitoring room been knocked out by you?" While Uncle Xiang was speaking, his subordinates had already gone to confirm. Sure enough, the person inside had already been carried out unconscious. "If we continue like this, neither of us will get the answer we want. Why don't we just be frank?" Uncle Xiang said, "This is my home ground. Everyone here is my people. Even if you have a team, do you think you can escape from me?" "Uncle Xiang, I don't understand what you're talking about." Wen Xiao would not admit anything until the very last moment, unless Uncle Xiang agreed to it first. Otherwise, he would have to pretend to be a fool until the very last moment. He had no way to determine whether Uncle Xiang was testing him or tricking him. Uncle Xiang laughed again. He walked to Wen Xiao's side and said in a low voice that only Wen Xiao could hear, "One-Eyed, you really won't give up until you see the Yellow River. You won't shed tears until you see the coffin. If I don't say it, you'll keep holding on to your wishful thinking, right? Fine, I will make it clear. I know all the secrets in Vulture's mailbox. Not only do I know that you almost died a few days ago and became a cripple, I also know that you could recover so fast because of the nourishment of a piece of Pobo jade which was worn by Zixahoya people for a long time." After everything was made clear, Wen Xiao also realized that he really couldn't continue pretending, but he still had a trick up his sleeve. "Uncle Xiang, I came to you to talk about this matter, but you haven't given me a chance. I don't know how to make you believe me, so forget it. Don't keep up the pretense." Uncle Xiang sneered and continued to speak in a low voice. "One-Eyed, although I don't know your personality well, I know very well what the secret of the Zixahoya tribe and Pobo Yu signifies. It signifies absolute power and absolute rule. No one would be willing to share this kind of secret. You came to me because you were worried that I would find out about this secret and wanted to make a move on me. Do you think it's possible? Me alone to make a move on you?" Wen Xiao raised his hands speechlessly and said, "I, One-Eyed, really don't think I have the ability to do that." Uncle Xiang said indifferently, "So, besides you, you have a helper. And this guy is probably in the base now. Otherwise, you would have escaped long ago, right?" Lin Guo, who was in the kitchen, had goosebumps all over his body. When this guy called Uncle Xiang appeared, he knew that it was this guy who led so many people to sweep the grassland area today. This voice was too familiar. And he could come back so quickly. Obviously, he had set a trap for them. Originally, they didn't need to jump into this dangerous situation, but because of his willfulness, Wen Xiao was also trapped. Hiss. Lin Gu took a breath of cold air. If this matter was messed up because of him, how could he face Su Yun? Damn it! Lin Gu was angry with himself. If he had to choose again, he would definitely choose to listen to Wen Xiao. Perhaps they would have already escaped from the encirclement. Perhaps Wen Xiao hated him to death now? On the contrary, Wen Xiao really didn't blame Lin Gu at all now. With the speed of Uncle Xiang's encirclement, it was obvious that he had been prepared. Even if they didn't return to the base at that time and chose to escape, they would have been intercepted by Uncle Xiang's people halfway. At that time, they would probably have fought directly. Then, their ending wouldn't be any different from now. Most of them would have died. They wouldn't even have the chance to talk like now. At least now, Wen Xiao hoped to use himself to stall for time and let Lin Gu think of a good way to escape. Although even Wen Xiao himself felt that this was a fantasy, he still had hope because this was his only hope. He had no other way. One-eyed, you are really a very, very good speaker. Uncle Seong smiled and patted One-eye's shoulder. Although he was standing beside One-eyed, he wasn't worried that One-eyed would attack him at all. Uncle Seong was still very confident in his own strength. It's a pity that the person you met is me, and I especially hate speakers. At this moment, Wen Xiao could only smile bitterly. If you and your people had the strength to fight with me, you wouldn't have to stall for time in front of me. Uncle Seong said, Are you regretting it now? It's a pity. There's no medicine for regret in this world. Wen Xiao swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Uncle Seong, you have already started to suspect me, so no matter what I say, it's meaningless. You can kill me or torture me as you wish. I'm here to ask for cooperation. If Uncle Seong insists on doing things your way, I have nothing to say. Uncle Seong shook his head. You know I won't kill you because I still have some things to figure out. But I'm afraid I won't let the person with you go unless you let him out now. We might still be able to sit down and talk for a while. Who knows, I might change my mind. Wen Xiao smiled bitterly. It's a pity that there's really no one here, only me. Wen Xiao, I want to see how stubborn your mouth is. Uncle Seong's voice started to turn cold. He waved his hand fiercely and ordered everyone, search. Kill without mercy. In the kitchen, Lin Gu heard this and immediately took out his dagger. He cursed in his heart. Isn't this old bastard too cruel? Kill without mercy? Fine. Then I'll let you know that I'm not someone to be trifled with. I'll break even if I kill one today, and I'll make a profit if I kill two today. Let's see who's the one who'll lose in the end. Wait. Wen Xiao finally couldn't take it anymore. Uncle Seong's order had been issued, and it was really an order to kill without mercy. He didn't dare to gamble with Lin Ji's life. If anything happened to Lin Gu, he wouldn't have the face to face Su Yun. Lin Ji's heart skipped a beat. Is this guy going to give me an explanation? But even if he admitted that there was someone here, Lin Gu didn't dare to believe that he wouldn't be killed on the spot when he went out. One-eyed, a wise man submits to circumstances. I don't need to teach you such a simple principle. Uncle Seong smiled faintly. You know what you should do. Let your friends come out. If we face each other face to face, then we're friends. If you hide, then you'll really be a scoundrel. Hearing this, Lin Gu couldn't take it anymore. I'll be caught sooner or later. I'm a man of steel, so I can't be called a scoundrel. Clang. Lin Gu kicked open the kitchen door with one foot. He sneered. Who are you calling a scoundrel? I'm just a little hungry, so I came here to have some supper. You're so King stingy. You want to use so many people to deal with me for supper? Humph, I think you're the scoundrel with no guts. Lin Ji's sarcastic words were directed at Uncle Seong. In an instant, all the mercenaries aimed their weapons at Lin Gu. As long as Uncle Seong gave the order, even if Lin Gu was an immortal, he would be shot to pieces in an instant. Uncle Seong! Wan Xiao shouted. If you want to know the secrets of this matter, then don't act rashly. Otherwise, I won't help you. This condition was very good, and also very threatening. Uncle Seong smiled and gestured for everyone to put down their guns. He smiled at Lin Gu. Young people have courage, but impulsiveness is the devil. You're lucky this time. Lin Ji's face was full of disdain, and he snorted lightly. Chapter 1839. One-eye, your friend has character, but I'm not interested in him, Uncle Seong said. What I want to talk about the most right now is how do you want to help me? How can you help me? You should know what I mean. I'm afraid this is the only reason why we can still stand together and talk. Uncle Seong, I remember you always say that as long as you're worthy of yourself, you'll be worthy of others. Wen Xiao said indifferently, this matter has nothing to do with my friend. If you let him go, I'll be worthy of you. Uncle Seong shook his head rudely and pointed at his temple. Do you think it's possible? Is it realistic? One-eye, you're not a brainless person. How can I let someone who knows this secret leave so casually? Even you, do you think you can leave? Lin Guo wasn't as polite as Wen Xiao. He said unhappily, if you want to stop me, you'll have to pay a price. Have you ever heard of the phrase, the loss outweighs the gain? Young man, don't be so arrogant. Uncle Xiong glanced at Lin Guo casually. I'm afraid you can't even pass this old man's test. Don't talk about conditions with me. Lin Guo really had the impulse to fight. He really wanted to see what kind of ability this Uncle Xiong had. Fortunately, Wen Xiao quickly stopped Lin Guo. If they really fought, Lin Guo really couldn't be Uncle Xiong's opponent. Although Uncle Xiong was old, he had absolute strength. After all, he was an expert of the profound world realm. Wen Xiao and Lin Guo really couldn't be Uncle Xiong's opponent. Even Wen Xiao, who had sold himself to the inner demon at that time, couldn't be sure that he could win against Uncle Xiong. Nobody in this area didn't know Uncle Xiong's strength. The mercenaries who could withstand 3 moves from him were all experts in the mercenary world. Uncle Xiong, give me a chance. Wen Xiao said. That depends on how you prove it to me. Uncle Xiong said, however, this person. I still have to lock him up first. Lin Guo naturally wouldn't allow himself to be captured without putting up a fight. Just as the 2 mercenaries behind Lin Guo were about to take him down, Lin Guo immediately retaliated. Sometimes, a person's strength needed to be displayed. Otherwise, the other party would never treat you as anything. When Lin Guo defeated the 2 of them with just 2 moves, Uncle Xiong was quite surprised. After all, it was not easy to have such strength at such a young age. It seemed that he had really underestimated the young man who was with Wen Xiao. The moment Lin Guo made his move, Tian Lu realized that none of the other mercenaries here were a match for this young man. Therefore, without waiting for the others to embarrass themselves, Tian Lu grabbed Lin Ji's face. Yo! This speed was on a completely different level from the 2 people just now. Lin Guo exclaimed in his heart. It seemed that Uncle Xiong really had some capable people under him. At least the guy who attacked him wasn't simple. His explosive power and speed weren't inferior to his own. Lin Guo didn't dare to let his guard down. He fought Tian Lu with all his strength. He wanted to see how capable Uncle Xiong's people were. However, Wen Xiao didn't let the battle continue. After Lin Guo counterattacked, he directly stood between the 2 of them. Enough. We're all on the same side. Why do you have to make things difficult for each other? Who's on the same side as him? If you think you're on the same side as them, then that's your problem. Don't drag me into it. Lin Guo didn't give him any face at all. I didn't say that. It was your one-eyed friend who said it himself. Uncle Xiong was completely enraged by Lin Ji's arrogance. Before Wen Xiao could react, Uncle Xiong personally attacked. Perhaps no one had seen Uncle Xiong attack in the past 10 years. Basically, the 3 tigers under his command could help him solve all his problems cleanly and clearly. But this time, he actually attacked personally. Moreover, his speed was on a completely different level from Tian Lu's. Lin Guo didn't even see clearly when he attacked. He was already enveloped by the wind from Uncle Xiong's fist. Even though Lin Guo had reflexively raised his hands to block the attack, he was still pushed back several meters by Uncle Xiong's punch. What terrifying strength! Lin Guo was shocked. He didn't expect this old man's strength to be so much higher than his own by a level. He couldn't possibly be this old man's opponent at all. After Uncle Xiong's punch, he followed up with a palm strike. Lin Guo couldn't react in time. His left shoulder was injured. A tearing pain made Lin Guo grit his teeth and take a few steps back. Only then did he manage to disperse the aftershock of the palm strike. Although Lin Guo hadn't fallen to the point where he couldn't defend himself, at this rate, he could only take a beating and run away. There was no possibility of fighting back. After Wen Xiao reacted, he quickly stood in front of Lin Guo. He had to control this guy's impulse. Otherwise, before Su Yun arrived, Lin Guo would die in Uncle Xiong's hands. Because Wen Xiao was too clear about Uncle Xiong's strength. He was a genuine earth-profound realm expert. How could Lin Guo resist him? Uncle Xiang, I beg you. Give me some face. When Xiao said, no matter what you want to know, I will tell you everything I know. Give me some face. Uncle Xiang said coldly, I just want to let him know that there's always someone better than him. Young man, don't be too arrogant. Sooner or later, you'll fall. Lin Ji's mouth was really stubborn. Even in this situation, he still didn't give in. I'm usually modest, but I can't stand pretentious people. What's so great about it? You've eaten more than me for a few decades and have more skills. If you have the guts, just kill me. You shut up. When Xiao was about to collapse, Lin Gu was too reckless. Uncle Xiang was the leader of the largest mercenary group in Southeast Asia. Killing people was really a normal thing for him. Uncle Xiang did have the intention to kill Lin Gu. Of this, he was sure of it. But at this time, he might really have to give Wen Xiao some face. I left his life for him. Does he have to leave something for me? Uncle Xiang snorted. One-eyed, today, I'll give you this face. But only this once. Come, put this kid in the water prison. I want to see how stubborn his mouth is. Lin Gu obviously didn't want to and wanted to fight back. But this time, the people who came to deal with him were Tian Lu and Jing Chu, two experts. Lin Gu really didn't have the strength to break free from the two. At the same time, there were guns aimed at Lin Ji's head. Lin Gu didn't want to lie down like a corpse. Soon, Lin Gu was brought to the water prison that Uncle Xiang mentioned. This kind of water prison seemed to be available in all the major mercenary bases in Southeast Asia. Because their captives were usually mercenary experts, it was very difficult to control them in a normal cage. Therefore, there was a water prison. It was a deep cellar filled with cold water and sealed with reinforced steel. The people in the water had to constantly step on the water to be able to breathe. This kind of water prison would constantly drain the person's strength and make it impossible to escape. Also, it was very difficult for people to use their strength in the water, so even experts couldn't easily break free. Uncle Xiang's water prison design was even more ingenious. Once the iron gate of the water prison was opened, it would affect the iron bars under the water. And on the other side of the iron bars, there were two giant crocodiles with stinky mouths. As long as the lock wasn't opened according to the password, the two crocodiles would definitely be released into the water prison. If the crocodiles swam over, the people in the water prison didn't have any weapons and couldn't escape. In the narrow space, it was almost impossible to deal with the two giant crocodiles with bare hands. Lin Gu was pushed into the water prison and the iron gate was locked. He could only try his best to keep his body afloat while using as little strength as possible. Very quickly, Lin Gu smelled the stench of the crocodiles' mouths. Damn! Wasn't this a little too much for him to handle? Lin Gu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This was too much. Being locked up in such a dangerous place, Lin Gu didn't even know if he could survive. The crocodiles next door seemed to have smelled the human scent and began to madly ram against the iron bars that separated the two bodies of water. Although they didn't succeed, Lin Gu still broke out in cold sweat in this ice-cold water prison. Because he really didn't know how he could resolve the crisis if these two beasts broke through. Chapter 1840. Hey! You're just going to leave me here? You might as well kill me. Can you hear me? Lin Gu shouted angrily in the water prison. Unfortunately, he didn't get any reply. The only response he got was the sound of the two ferocious crocodiles crazily hitting the iron bars. Clang, clang. Every hit was accompanied by the impact of water waves. Lin Ji's mental state was a little hysterical. Wasn't this a little too much? That was enough. Why was there no end to it? He obviously wanted to learn more secrets from Wen Xiao, yet he still played this game with him. Lin Gu didn't understand. The more dangerous his situation was, the more passive Wen Xiao would be in front of Uncle Xiang. The more passive Wen Xiao was, the more dangerous his situation would be. This was a vicious cycle, and it was definitely not their current advantage. Lin Gu overestimated their bargaining chip to know Guoguo's secret. In Uncle Xiang's eyes, even without their help, as long as it was something he wanted, he would definitely get it. Now that he had the two of them, they were just two more chess pieces that he could use. They weren't people that Uncle Xiang couldn't let go of. That was why Lin Gu was heartlessly thrown into the water prison. These actions could even be said to be killing the chicken to warn the monkey. It was to let Wen Xiao see that they were definitely not that important in East Xiang's eyes. He should never think too highly of himself and act too self-righteous in front of him. He could throw them away at any time. Wen Xiao now understood the whole thing clearly. He absolutely believed that if he was stupid enough to go against Uncle Xiang, the consequences would be unimaginable. Whether Lin Gu could keep his life now depended on how he could gain Uncle Xiang's trust. Uncle Xiang, this old fox, really lived up to his name. One-eyed, you know I don't have much patience. Just give me a quick answer. Uncle Xiang was also chasing after Wen Xiao. Information was of utmost importance at any time. Wen Xiao met Uncle Xiang's gaze and said lightly, "The Zixahoya is a little girl. She should still be in the Suong area. However, she's heavily protected. It's definitely not that easy to get close to her. Uncle Xiang, if you want to get that little girl from Zixahoya clan and Pobo Jade, you really need my brother and my help. Both of us have seen that little girl before, but none of your other brothers have seen her before, so we don't have a target." Uncle Xiang's expression was a little cold. "One-eyed, if you still want to lie to me at this time, I won't be polite to you. You know that there are two pets that often don't get food next to my water prison. You don't want to watch your brothers to become my pet's dinner, right?" "Uncle Xiang, why should I lie to you? I'm to say it." Wen Xiao opened his eyes wide and said, "You can't rely on your own intuition to determine the truth of what I said. How can I joke with you at a time like this?" "One-eyed, I believe you when you say that this Zixahoya is a little girl. I also believe you when you say that this little girl has many people protecting her. I believe you even more when you say that you and your brother have seen this Zixahoya girl." Uncle Xiang said, "But I definitely don't believe you when you say that this Zixahoya girl is still in Suong." Wen Xiao was stunned. Was this old thing's intuition so accurate? This was the only place he had lied about. He was worried that Uncle Xiang would arrange for his men in Huaxia to find Guagua, so he made up a place where Guagua was in Suong. However, this place should be very convincing. Because Wen Xiao died in Suong, Uncle Xiang had no reason to not believe that the Zixahoya girl was in Suong. Why? Could it be that this old fox was a living lie detector? Wen Xiao had no temper at all. He waited in shock for Uncle Xiang to give him a reason not to believe him. Indeed, this Zixahoya girl might have been kidnapped by Vulture and brought to Suong, but now that Vulture is dead, she can't still be in Suong. Uncle Xiang said, "That's because you're recuperating on Guqin Island. If I remember correctly, you're at Guqin Island City Hospital. Since you've admitted that your injuries were healed by Paboyu, then this Zahoya girl must have come to Guqin Island too." Uncle Xiang's analysis was very cautious. "So, you can conclude that this Zixahoya girl's location must be Guqin Island. No matter if she's still there or not, you should tell me that she's in Guqin Island and not Suong." "One-eyed, how can I believe you?" Wen Xiao needed an explanation. He had to give a reasonable explanation. "Uncle Xiang, let me finish. I dare to say that the Zixahoya girl is in Suong because I know she went there. And she had to go. Do you know why Vulture died in Suong? Because Paboyu was in Suong, that's why he went there. Now that my condition has improved, Paboyu naturally needs to be put back." Uncle Xiang suddenly frowned. This was indeed a question that he hadn't thought of. At this moment, he couldn't make sense of it and fell into a state of confusion. One-eyed, Pobo Jade only has that kind of magical power when worn by the Zixahoya tribesmen. If it's not worn by the Zixahoya people, then it's useless. In other words, the real Zixahoya person is not necessarily the little girl that Vulture lost his life for, but someone else who lives in seclusion in Suong. Wen Xiao was speechless after Uncle Xiang's analysis. It seems that when a person's thinking is too meticulous, when a person's thinking is too complicated, it is not necessarily a good thing. Sometimes, if you think too much, you will get yourself into trouble. This was Uncle Xiang's current situation. He was afraid that he had really gotten himself into trouble. Uncle Xiang had already complicated a simple matter, and he did not need Wen Zhao's guidance at all. This really made Wen Zhao heave a sigh of relief. At least in this situation, he did not need to say or do anything. He just needed to follow Uncle Xiang's lead and let him figure it out himself. So the water here is really deep. Uncle Xiang thought too much. In the end, even he himself felt that it was a little unbelievable. One-eyed, I wonder if you and Vulture have figured out who the real Zixahoya person is. Humph, Vulture's death was really not worth it. Hearing Uncle Xiang's words, Wen Zhao naturally wouldn't argue. He shook his head blankly. No, no, no. Could it all be a trap? Uncle Xiang thought too much and felt that his head was about to explode. I don't want to hear anything now. I just want to be alone and think about it quietly. One-eyed, I'm afraid I'll have to trouble you. Wen Zhao was startled. He did not understand what Uncle Xiang meant. In this small temple of mine, other than the water prison, I really don't know where else you can stay, Uncle Xiang said faintly. Since you care about your brother, then go accompany him. It won't be too late for us to talk about it tomorrow after I figure this out. Uncle Xiang, you don't have to treat me like an outsider, right? Wen Zhao did not want to end up like Lin Gu, and he could not resist because of Lin Gu. Uncle Xiang pointed at his head. I'm sorry, one-eyed brother. I just hope that this thing on my neck can stay there for a few more years. I'm sorry. Yes. There is indeed no trust. Wen Zhao smiled. In that case, I won't make things difficult for Uncle Xiang. If you want me to go to the water prison, I'll go to the water prison. I'll bring this sincerity to Uncle Xiang. I hope Uncle Xiang will understand tomorrow. If you had brought your brother with you when you first came, I'm afraid there wouldn't be any doubt between us. Uncle Xiang did not give Wen Zhao any face. If we could work together, we would still be friends. The corners of Wen Zhao's mouth curled up, revealing a silent smile. Then he straightened up and allowed Ding Kai and Jing Chu to lead him to the water dungeon. With these two watching over him, Uncle Xiang was not worried at all. He went back to his room by himself. He had to think things through tonight. Chapter 1841. When Wen Zhao was also locked up in the water dungeon, Lin Gu couldn't help but give him a thumbs up. I didn't think you were so kind before, but now I realize that you're quite particular. If you're loyal enough, we'll be brothers in the future. Let's think of a way to leave together. Lin Gu, I'll tell you very seriously now that I'm a very particular person. I also know what loyalty is. Wen Zhao said. But I'm not stupid enough to come to this place to accompany you for loyalty. The reason I let them lock me up in this water dungeon is because of your lack of calm. Do you understand what I mean? I know. You're blaming me for not running with you. Otherwise, we wouldn't have ended up like this. Lin Gu waved his hand, and the water rippled. I know it's because of me. You don't have to remind me anymore. But if it were you, after eating bugs, spiders, and ants for a day, you wouldn't want to leave even if you saw the kitchen. Wen Zhao shook his head. No, even if we left, we couldn't have escaped. This is a big trap that Uncle Xiang dug. He was waiting for me to fish you in here and catch you in one fell swoop. He's much more difficult to deal with than we thought. We were too careless. You can't blame the fox for being too cunning when you go hunting without success. Lin Gu really didn't know how to shirk responsibility. If you want to blame someone, you can only blame the hunter for not being focused enough. The initiative should have been in our hands, but now it seems that we don't have any initiative at all. Instead, we're very passive. What initiative do you still want? Wen Zhao said. It's already very lucky that he didn't kill you. Lin Gu, Uncle Xiang is scarier than we thought. He won't be controlled by anyone. Even if we have very, very important clues in our hands that can help him, he won't be controlled by us. You can't use this as a bargaining chip. So that old fox is really a tough guy. He knows that it's more reliable to rely on his own two hands than on anyone else. Lin Gu mocked himself. Stop calling him Uncle Xiang. You're making it sound like you're close to him. It's affecting my judgment of you. Wen Xiao was speechless. I've already been locked up in this water prison to suffer with you. Why are you still so suspicious? It's just a joke. Do you have to go so far? Lin Gu said, All right, don't be angry. Think of a way to open the lock on the top. If we soak in the water for a night, we'll be swollen, right? Wen Xiao was not in the mood to joke with Lin Gu. Their current situation was too dangerous, and there was one very important point. They really had no way of leaving, because this lock had a mechanism that required a key to open. Otherwise, the two smelly beasts next door would be released. Although it was now 2 against 2, the two of them were not completely helpless against the crocodiles. But in this space where there was no place to hide, and they were unarmed, it was still very difficult to deal with the 2 giant crocodiles. Even if the 2 of them had a pair of iron fists, the power in the water would be greatly affected. It was simply impossible to rely on fists to solve the problem. This lock is connected to the iron bars between us and the crocodiles. Wen Xiao said, I dare say that the only key that can open the lock has already been personally delivered to Uncle Xiong by that guy called Ding Kai. I don't have any objections to using force, but first you have to tell me how you can stop those 2 crocodiles. If you have the ability, we can give it a try. Lin Gu pondered for a while, and finally shook his head. It was better to forget it. In this space, he really had no way to stop the 2 crocodiles. There was simply no way to buy time for Wen Xiao to open the lock. When the time came, the sound in the water would be so loud that it would definitely disturb the others. If they were discovered that they wanted to escape, then they would really face death. Think of a way. This won't work. Lin Gu shook his head. Wen Xiao laughed bitterly. You're finally willing to use your brain. You know that this won't solve the problem. I thought you would really agree. Do you think I'm stupid? Lin Gu rolled his eyes at Wen Xiao. Let's hurry up. I ate a lot of beef before I got into the water, and I even drank a few mouthfuls of white wine in the kitchen. I have enough calories. You probably didn't even eat anything, right? How long can you last? Wen Xiao raised his head and looked at the iron cage. Don't worry, I won't die from soaking in the water for a night. In a place like this, there's no way we can get out without anyone outside to help us. At this moment, Wen Xiao suddenly missed the black dog. If the black dog Barton was here, it would definitely not see him like this. Unfortunately, Uncle Xiong had already predicted this. When he first arrived here, the black dog was sent out by Uncle Xiong. Out of all the people around Uncle Xiong was the only one Wen Xiao could trust. He was also the only one who would think from Wen Xiao's perspective and could help Wen Xiao. But now, there was no one who could help them. You're giving up just like that? Lin Gu was stunned. Don't. You've lived here for so long. Can't you even handle such a small matter? You make it sound so easy for such a small matter. Wen Xiao sighed. This matter is not as simple as you think. We don't even have a single helper. I've been emphasizing that we have to work together from the inside out because I was afraid this would happen. Now, we're both useless. Lin Gu shrugged. If my brother knew about this, he'd be disappointed. Wen Xiao suddenly had a glimmer of hope. Do you think boss has already arrived? What are you thinking? You calculate the time. If he wants to go to Yanjing to ask for help and then rush here from Yanjing, it's at least 3,500 kilometers in a straight line, right? Lin Gu smiled bitterly. Unless he's driving a plane, it's already good enough that he's able to pass through Hubei. Wen Xiao also knew that they had to cross almost the entire Huaxia. With such a long distance, they couldn't expect them to arrive in such a short time. If that's the case, we can only stay here for the night. It's good to have 2 crocodiles as companions. It won't be too boring. What do you think? It won't be too boring. Lin Gu said weakly. Let's talk less and conserve some energy. Who knows how that old fox wants to torture us? Let's take turns sleeping. Wen Xiao didn't know whether to laugh or cry at Lin Ji's words. You can sleep in a place like this? Aren't you afraid of drowning? Lin Gu was a little proud. I didn't grow up in the inland areas. After the Dragon Brigade sent me away, I lived by the sea for the rest of my life. I'll sleep first. Think of a way to rest yourself. After saying that, Lin Gu held a breath in his dantian and tried to relax his body. Then, his whole body floated on the water. As long as he kept breathing and kept his lungs filled with air, Lin Gu could float on the water. Wen Xiao was really impressed. It wasn't because he could float. Any expert swimmer would know this move. The principle was very simple. But how many people could float and fall asleep in such a situation? There were still 2 crocodiles next door. These 2 beasts were much scarier than Old Wong next door. Are we really sleeping? Wen Xiao still couldn't believe it. Lin Gu closed his eyes and said weakly, "If we don't conserve some energy, we won't be able to escape even if we want to." Wouldn't that be too much of a pity? What he said made sense. Wen Xiao waved his hand, indicating that Lin Gu should sleep if he could. He didn't have the ability to sleep on the water, and he wasn't that generous. He still had his worries. Although Uncle Xiang had been led into another line of thought by his own complicatedness, what would happen once he came back to his senses? At that time, how could Wen Xiao calm Uncle Xiang down? How could he convince Uncle Xiang that he and Lin Gu could help him? Only then could they save their lives and buy time for Su Yun to find them. Otherwise, they really couldn't be saved. What Lin Gu and Wen Xiao didn't dare to imagine was that Su Yun and the others really came by plane. They directly flew across almost the entire Huaxia and arrived at the border area. And they had already passed through the minefield and arrived outside the border. Su Yun was advancing rapidly according to the clues left by Lin Gu. Chapter 1842. The reason why Su Yun was advancing so quickly was obviously because of the explosion in the distance. Judging from the distance of the explosion, that place was at least a 2-hour walk away from where they were, so Su Yun sped up their advance. His intuition told him that there was something wrong with that place. Although there were quite a lot of mercenary groups in Southeast Asia, one thing was certain, and that was that these mercenaries were still very high quality because they were not a mob. Most of them were real soldiers, either because they had retired or because of some special reasons. They were all people who came out of the army, so they were organized and disciplined. As an organized and disciplined group, they would never have unnecessary conflicts for no reason. If there were sounds of conflict after the explosion just now, it meant that there was a confrontation. However, after that one sound, there was nothing else, which meant that it was definitely not a large-scale confrontation. This kind of unorganized and undisciplined thing was generally not done by mercenary groups, so Su Yun had to suspect that this matter had something to do with Lin Gu and Wen Xiao. If it had something to do with these 2 people, it basically meant that there was danger. So Su Yun sped up. Whether his guess was right or not, he couldn't leave it alone. Under Su Yun's influence, the other brothers also understood in their hearts. They followed closely, carefully maintaining their advancing formation. Not to brag, just the speed of their elite team's advancement was absolutely extraordinary. Even if they encountered some obstacles along the way, it was easy for them to get rid of a wave of people in a short time. Fortunately, Lin Gu left marks on the route to avoid all the mercenary group's bases, so they didn't encounter any unlucky guys. "Boss, are they reliable or not? Didn't you say that before we arrived, they wouldn't make a move?" Qian Feng said, "If that sound was really caused by them, wouldn't they be in a very dangerous situation right now? Why do we have to speed up? It's because once they are exposed, it will be very dangerous." Han Zhan explained while avoiding a deep pit under his feet. According to the location and location of the sound, that place is very likely to be the target point that Lin Gu sent back. We have to be careful. Su Yun didn't explain too much. As long as they reached the destination, they would naturally understand what happened. Su Yun couldn't predict the specific situation now, but he was very clear that it must be a disaster. There was no doubt about it. So he could only speed up and reach the destination as soon as possible. If they were really in danger, he might be able to save them if he arrived one step earlier. If he was late, he might regret it for the rest of his life. During the process of moving, Su Yun would occasionally give a few commands and basically didn't speak. Everyone knew how he was feeling now, so they knew what they should do. They silently followed behind Su Yun and tried to speed up as much as possible so that Su Yun wouldn't be distracted and worry about them. With such a speed of advancement, everything went smoothly. Everyone knew what they were doing now. For the safety of their two brothers, this was enough to keep them clear-headed and ready to fight at any time. Finally, after an hour and a half of long-distance running, Su Yun led the Brothers of Dragon's Fury to the target location. After entering the vicinity of the target location, they had to slow down. It was hard to say whether they would encounter an ambush. Just as they stopped to observe, Hua Xiaolu used the scope of his sniper rifle to observe an abnormal place. 10 o'clock, about 600 meters away, there is movement. Everyone quieted down. No one dared to make the slightest movement. They needed Hua Xiaolu to give a more accurate judgment. Hua Xiaolu, who had calmed down, carefully observed every movement that appeared. He was very clear on what that movement meant. After a few minutes, he was sure that there was only one sniper on the other side. This sniper hidden in the dark was someone arranged by Uncle Xiang. If it was a normal day, with Uncle Xiang's cautiousness and caution, he would never leave only one sniper to guard the door. But now that there was a big matter in the base, his focus had to be on the base. This also gave Su Yun and the others a great opportunity. Of course, Su Yun wouldn't miss this opportunity. There is a sniper. Who will take care of it? I will command. Hua Xiaolu smiled slightly and pointed at the microphone and earpiece hanging from his ear. Leave it to me. Gong Sun Lang twisted his neck. He was the lightest among them, and his reaction speed was definitely the fastest. Of course, this kind of thing couldn't be done by Su Yun. After all, Su Yun was everyone's brain and commander. They would never agree to let him go. Han Zhan patted Gong Sun Lang's shoulder and gestured for him to put on his earpiece. Be careful. Don't expose yourself. If Ice Dragon's target is exposed, immediately shoot and kill him. Su Yun also said to Hua Xiaolu. They didn't shoot now because they were afraid of alerting the enemy. If the enemy noticed Gong Sun Lang's figure, they would expose everything if they opened fire. There was no need for them to hold back. Killing the enemy sniper first and exposing their identity was safer than letting the enemy fire another shot at Hua Xiaolu. At least, it would reduce Gong Sun Lang's danger. Hua Xiaolu made an okay gesture to show his confidence to Su Yun. He was absolutely confident that he could take care of this. He aimed at the target while giving the route. Gong Sun Lang and Hua Xiaolu were old partners who often went on missions together, so the tacit understanding and trust between the two was very high. Under Hua Xiaolu's command, Gong Sun Lang's large movements were carried out in the enemy's blind spot. And in the enemy's sight, Gong Sun Lang showed an absolutely cautious attitude. His movements were almost invisible to the naked eye. Just like this, although it was only a short distance of 600 meters, Gong Sun Lang still used 10 minutes to find his way there. After all, he had to listen to Hua Xiaolu's command in the dark. He didn't even know the enemy's position. Stop. Hua Xiaolu carefully aimed at the enemy sniper and said softly into the microphone, The enemy is now at your 11 o'clock, 15 meters away. There are 6 trees between the two of you. At this distance, any movement you make will be seen by the enemy. There is no cover. And no matter how soft your voice is at this distance, it will still disturb the enemy. Gong Sun Lang held his breath and quietly took out a combat dagger from his combat boots. He knew that the critical moment had arrived. Now, he only needed Hua Xiaolu to give him the correct command and give him the correct path. He quietly waited for the order to be given. Take 3 steps straight. After disturbing the enemy, quickly dodge behind the first tree in front of you, then dash out from the left side. Let your legs explode and try to hide behind the second tree in 2 seconds. You should be able to identify the remaining trees by now. It's up to you to decide which path to take. Remember, you must find cover as soon as possible. We can't be sure of the enemy sniper's ability. Hua Xiaolu said at the end. He was right to remind Gong Sun Lang to find cover as soon as possible. The time an excellent sniper needed to aim and shoot was too short. If he couldn't find cover in a short time, the result wouldn't be what they wanted. After making the final arrangements, Hua Xiaolu didn't say anything else. He seriously raised his sniper rifle. If there was any abnormality, if Gong Sun Lang was in danger, he would pull the trigger immediately. He wouldn't let his brother's life be threatened. Su Yun and the others were very nervous. None of them wanted to disturb the enemy camp. That would be detrimental to their future plans. Gong Sun Lang finally made his move. He suddenly stood up and rushed behind the first tree like a cheetah. At this time, the disturbed sniper immediately realized the existence of danger. The atmosphere at the scene became tense. Chapter 1843. Gong Sun Lang knew how important this dangerous barrier was to them. He had to fulfill the expectations of his boss and his brothers. In an instant, Gong Sun Lang appeared under the second tree in a flash. He didn't even give the enemy a chance to react before he flashed behind the third tree. This time, the enemy sniper was shaken. The enemy was less than 10 meters away from him, and he didn't even have the chance to aim. Just as the enemy sniper was about to get up, retreat, and change to his handgun, Gong Sun Lang seemed to know what the enemy was thinking. He directly left the cover and rushed forward. Everything happened too suddenly. The moment the enemy sniper took out his handgun, Gong Sun Lang had already swung the dagger in his hand across the enemy's neck. Hua Xiaolu, who had been holding the sniper rifle and aiming, couldn't help but exclaim, "Beautiful!" This assassination was simply too beautiful. Hearing Hua Xiaolu's exclamation, Su Yun and the others knew that everything was done even though they couldn't see what was happening in the darkness. Su Yun sighed in relief and immediately ordered them to move forward. Hua Xiaolu also immediately notified Gong Sun Lang and the others. They were going to arrive soon. Before Su Yun and the others arrived, Gong Sun Lang put the body back in the gathering place and removed the bullets in the gun. He put the body down as if nothing had happened, but there was now a pool of blood under the body. These mercenaries were all murderers. Who knew how many blood debts they had on their hands? It could be said that their deaths were not regrettable. They were all prepared to sacrifice themselves at any time. This was a business where they risked their lives to make money. Death was very normal for them. There was nothing to feel regretful about. After Su Yun and the others followed, they moved forward together again. What made them feel very surprised was that the only threat they encountered along the way was this sniper. No one stopped them from going straight into the enemy's territory. It was imaginable how much Uncle Xiang had shrunk his forces this time. However, when they reached the periphery of the mercenary base, the pressure of the patrols increased. There were 2 teams of 6 people in each team. They were constantly patrolling around the base, appearing very cautious. The entire mercenary base was quite quiet, and the atmosphere was very tense. Su Yun and the others were hiding outside. After observing for a while, they finally found a way to sneak in. However, they couldn't all sneak in because they still couldn't confirm if Lin Gur and Wen Xiao were really in the mercenary base. If the 2 of them were not here, it would be meaningless for them to clash with this mercenary group. They would only exhaust their stamina and weapons. "I'll go in and take a look first." Han Zhan was already prepared. "If they're here, we'll set up our tactics. If they're not, we'll not alert them. Whether the person is here or not is a problem. What kind of situation the person is in is also a problem. Su Yun, if they're able to blend in well, we'll need to plan for the long term." Although Qian Feng's words were a bit of a wet blanket, he also raised a crucial question. "There was an explosion here just now, but it's still so quiet now. Boss, do you think they're in a good situation?" Su Yun shrugged. They probably weren't in a good situation, but he still had a glimmer of hope in his heart. He hoped that they were all fine. Han Zhan only brought a pistol with a silencer and a combat dagger. He went into battle lightly and sneaked into the enemy's camp in the middle of the night like a shadow. Although everyone in Uncle Xiang's base was tense at this time, no one noticed that someone had sneaked in. Uncle Xiang was in his room, racking his brains to think about the Zixuhoya people and Pa Boyu. There was a map of Hua Xia on his desk. Qin Island, Su Hang. There were 2 large red circles on the map. Uncle Xiang would occasionally use a red pen to draw Qin Island's position from Qin Island's position to Su Hang's position, and then from Su Hang's position to Qin Island's position. A perfectly good map had already been ruined by the red pen he was holding. However, Uncle Xiang still couldn't deduce 2 questions. First, was the Zixahoya people the little girl they were talking about, or was there someone else? Second, was Paboyu still on Qin Island, or had he returned to Su Hang, or could he have gone to any place in Hua Xia? These 2 questions almost exhausted all of Uncle Xiang's energy. He really wanted to tear the map to pieces. Ding Kai had been by Uncle Xiang's side the whole time. He wasn't worried that the 2 people in the water prison would cause any trouble. He was worried that Uncle Xiang would be tortured by this matter and break down. Uncle Xiang, it doesn't matter where the thing you want is. If we really can't figure it out, then we'll look for it one by one. Sooner or later, we'll be able to rule it out. You don't understand. Because we can't be sure how many people know this secret. If someone is 1 step ahead of us, we'll regret it for the rest of our lives. Uncle Xiang said. Also, this matter must be done in Hua Xia. Every day we stay in Hua Xia is another day of danger. Vulture's death has reminded us that Hua Xia is the biggest forbidden area for mercenaries in the world. If we dare to go there, the special police and special forces in Hua Xia will dare to arrest us. Ding Kai nodded. The older the ginger, the spicier it was. Uncle Xiang always considered things more comprehensively than them. Uncle Xiang looked at Ding Kai and then said to Jing Chu and Tian Lu, who were resting with their eyes closed, "If it's just me, I'll give it a try. At worst, I'll die. Anyway, I've lived for a few more decades. I've earned enough. But you guys are different. You're still young. I don't want you to gamble with your lives like me." These words not only comforted the seemingly calm but actually surging inner world of the 3, it also reassured the 3 of them, making them even less likely to think of rebelling against him. Uncle Xiang's IQ and EQ were both very high. He was definitely not someone easy to deal with. If Lin Ge had known earlier that this person was so smart, they wouldn't have been locked up in the water prison because of a verbal conflict. For this matter, the early information is very important. I can't completely trust One Eye. Uncle Xiang sighed. Tian Lu said, Uncle Xiang, if you can't trust him, then we'll use some private punishment. Who knows? Maybe he'll relent. When that happens, what he says might be true. Haha. No matter what, One Eye was born in the Hua Xia Special Forces. Do you think that torture will have any effect on someone like him? It won't have any effect. Uncle Xiang said, Today, we'll lock them up in the water prison for a night. Let them suffer a little. Tomorrow, I'll think of a way to persuade them emotionally and logically. Let's see how he reacts. Uncle Xiang, it seems like you already have a plan? Ding Kai was startled. Uncle Xiang shook his head. I'll think about it tonight. Maybe I'll have a better plan. But don't let them have it too easy. Before you let them out of the water prison tomorrow, let the 2 crocodiles play with them in the water. Give them some pressure. Ding Kai nodded. They all knew very well that the 2 crocodiles wouldn't be able to kill experts of that level. However, the 2 of them had exhausted their strength after a night in the water. If they were harassed by the crocodiles again, they wouldn't have the strength to do anything when they got out of the water. All right, you guys go back to sleep. I'll think about it, Uncle Xiang said lightly. Uncle Xiang, have a good rest. The 3 of them said their goodbyes and left. After the 3 of them left, Uncle Xiang's eyes were still fixed on the map. However, he would never have thought that his conversation had been heard clearly by Han Zhan, who had just snuck in. In order to avoid being discovered, Han Zhan hid himself in the darkness when the 3 of them left. He even held his breath completely. Chapter 1844. The people who lived in this area seemed to like the water dungeon very much. It was as if they did not have such a place to keep hostages and captives in. It was not a real camp. In fact, this was very normal. Normal cages could not hold people who were powerful and threatening, and they could not deplete the prisoner's physical strength and energy. This place could not be used as a dungeon. The special structure of the land meant that if this place was used as a dungeon, it was likely to collapse. If there was a hostage who was important and could not be killed in the dungeon, this person could be buried alive if the dungeon collapsed. The result was self-evident. That was why everyone liked to use the water dungeon to keep hostages and captives. It could slowly deplete the prisoner's physical strength and ensure the prisoner's safety. It was definitely their first choice. After receiving this news, Han Zhan was not in a hurry to leave. Since he had already sneaked in, he should find the location of the water dungeon before leaving. Otherwise, even if he came in later to rescue, he would need to find the water dungeon again. There would be more people, and the chances of his target being exposed would be higher. It was safer for him to find it himself. After Uncle Xiang's 3 subordinates left, Han Zhan continued to sneak in. According to his experience, it was not difficult for him to determine the approximate location of the water dungeon. Now he had to worry about how many people were guarding the water dungeon and how he could avoid it. With an observant attitude, Han Zhan began to look for the water dungeon. When he noticed the location, he was more or less surprised. After he determined the location of the water dungeon, he found that there was no one guarding it. There were so many night patrols in the base, but none of them had any intention of patrolling the water dungeon. This situation made Han Zhan a little confused. However, the more it was like this, the more careful Han Zhan knew that no one could guarantee that there would not be a trap. After the second wave of patrols passed by, Han Zhan moved. His figure was hidden in the darkness. When he came to the water dungeon, he realized why there was no one guarding it. The stench of a crocodile entered Han Zhan's nose. Han Zhan was quite shocked. This guy actually used a crocodile to guard the water prison for him. No wonder he needed someone to guard it. Crocodiles were much more vigilant than people. The crocodiles in the natural environment might not have the bad breath of the crocodiles here because there was a bird called the thousand-swallow bird in the natural environment. It was a very small bird with a slender mouth. It was a bird that cleaned the crocodiles' mouths. It was also called the toothpick bird, or some people called it the crocodile bird. As soon as the crocodile ate, pieces of meat would be stuck between its teeth, slowly rotting and giving birth to maggots. Chen Yao walked back and forth between the crocodile's sparse teeth, picking its teeth, catching maggots, and serving the crocodile comfortably. Even if the crocodile was asleep, as long as Chen Yao came to its mouth and flapped its wings a few times, the crocodile would automatically open its mouth and let the bird fly in. This would definitely reduce the number of crocodiles suffering from oral diseases. However, the crocodiles that were out of the natural environment were not so lucky. Chen Yao did not have the guts to come to a circle full of people to help the 2 crocodiles in the water prison pick their teeth. Therefore, the 2 crocodiles' mouths were much worse than those in the natural environment. Han Zhan quietly observed for a while. He really admired the person who designed this water prison. The water prison for the guards and the water prison for the crocodiles were separated by iron bars. Perhaps it would only take a finger to gently touch the mechanism to let the 2 crocodiles with bad breath eat their fill. Speaking of which, Han Zhan's stealth ability was really amazing. He had already come to the side of the water prison, but Lin Ge and Wan Xiao in the water prison still did not notice him at all. In order to attract the 2's attention without disturbing the 2 crocodiles, Han Zhan picked up a stone the size of a pill and threw it into the water. Although the sound was very subtle, it still alerted the 2 people in the water prison in an instant. Wan Xiao stared at the darkness without blinking. The silhouette of the figure was very clear. Lin Ge no longer floated on the water to sleep. He did not want to die in his sleep. Right now, their bodies were abnormally cold. If it were not for their extraordinary physiques and ability to adapt to the environment, they probably would not have been able to withstand this torture. "I am Black Dragon," Han Zhan said in a voice that was almost inaudible. "You don't need to answer me. You just need to know that we will save you immediately." Lin Ge was so excited that he wanted to do a synchronized swim. Wasn't this too fast? Brother Yun was indeed Brother Yun. This efficiency was completely beyond their imagination. Wan Xiao was so excited that he did not know what to do. It was too unbelievable. Everything had changed too quickly. I came in first to scout. Boss and the brothers are all outside. Han Zhan continued to lower his voice. You guys should be ready at any time. How did you know we were locked in here? Wen Xiao still asked the question in his heart. Han Zhan smiled faintly in the darkness. Wen Xiao, you're still so cautious. You don't even dare to confirm my voice? I knew you were here. I heard it when I snuck in. If you still don't believe that I am Black Dragon, I can tell you a few embarrassing things that only you and I know. After all, Wen Xiao had not heard Han Zhan's voice for many years, so he wanted to confirm it. Now that he heard Han Zhan say this, what else did he have to doubt? Lin Gu also said with certainty, Brother Han Zhan's voice is so special. You even doubt that? I just want to confirm it, Wen Xiao said. He suddenly thought of something to remind Han Zhan. We won't be saved that easily. The lock of this water prison is connected to the underwater iron bars. Other than the only key to open it, any external force will cause the underwater iron bars to open. The crocodiles will swim directly over. You mean to say that humans and crocodiles are in the same cage? Han Zhan sucked in a breath of cold air. I didn't expect the person who designed this water prison to be even more abnormal than I thought. There is even a mechanism. Lin Gu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Brother Han Zhan, you should quickly discuss with my brother and think of a way to get us out of here. This stench has been suffocating me all night. I can't help but vomit. Han Zhan frowned. There is only one key to this lock? Where is the key? The key is on the mercenary group's leader, Uncle Xiang. Han Zhan said. I dare say that he will definitely carry this key with him. Wen Xiao, what is the point of saying this? Is this any different from saying that there is no key to this lock? Lin Gu said. That old fox carries the key with him. Who among us has the ability to take the key from him? It will definitely disturb him. Wen Xiao also knew this, but this was the truth. That was the only key. If we disturb that old fox, he will definitely let the crocodiles out for us to play with. Even with my current physical strength, I can't guarantee that I can play with such a big beast for long. How long do you think you can last? Lin Gu said. If we can't get out, we will be bitten half to death by the crocodiles. If we get out, we will be half crippled. Han Zhan comforted Lin Gu. Don't worry. There is always a way out. We will definitely find a way to solve this problem. Don't worry. Calm down. We will come to save you soon. We will. We will definitely wait for your rescue before we act. Wen Xiao said seriously. If you don't wait for our rescue, you won't be able to get out. Lin Gu said. You should be like me. Rest well. At this time, the sound of footsteps came from afar. The patrol team is here. I will leave now. You must wait for us. Han Zhan didn't wait for the two to respond and left in a hurry. His figure once again fell into the darkness. No one noticed his appearance or existence. He was like a ghost in the night, coming and going without a trace. Han Zhan was also very careful on his way out of the base. If he was discovered, then all his previous efforts would be wasted. Su Yun and the others outside the base were patiently waiting for Han Zhan to return. As long as there were no strange sounds in the base, it meant that Han Zhan hadn't been exposed. In the middle of the night, the mercenary base was terrifyingly quiet. Other than the footsteps of the patrol team, no other sounds could be heard. It was as if everyone was asleep, but also as if everyone was deliberately hiding their breathing, waiting for the appearance of their prey. This kind of feeling really made people feel very uncomfortable and very scary. Chapter 1845. After Han Zhan left the mercenary base, Su Yun and his brothers could finally breathe a sigh of relief. And Han Zhan's expression clearly told them that his infiltration this time was very fruitful. I saw Lin Gu and Wen Xiao. Both of them were locked in the water prison. Han Zhan said, I didn't have time to ask about the specific situation, but according to some of the words I heard, the person who cracked the secret of the mailbox was the mercenary leader called Uncle Xiang, and Wen Xiao didn't gain their trust. It's good that the two of them are fine. Su Yun's heart that was in his throat finally settled down. As long as the two of them were fine, nothing else was a problem. No matter who knew the secret, Su Yun couldn't let them go. This was a problem that wasn't worth discussing. Prepare to save them. Han Zhong nodded. There is a situation right now. The water prison they are locked in has a mechanism. If the lock is broken by an external force, one of the iron bars in the water prison will open, and on the other side of the iron bars are two giant crocodiles. The mechanism won't be triggered unless it is opened with a key. And the only key is with the leader of this mercenary group, Uncle Xiang. So we have to steal the key before we can save them. Chen Feng was startled. This seems to be a bit difficult. To be able to become the leader of so many mercenaries, this Uncle Xiang isn't simple. Who knows this guy's information, and what is his identity? Before Su Yun left Yanjing, Wan Guangxiao really did mention this Uncle Xiang to him. Wan Guangxiao told Su Yun that the person he should be most careful of was this Uncle Xiang. This person is called Dong Xiang. The main team has known this person for a long time. Su Yun said lightly. Back then, he was the spearhead of the famous Shadow Recon team, but he wanted to become a special force member of the Dragon Brigade. Because his ambition was too big, and his personality didn't meet the requirements of a special force member, even though his strength was terrifying and far surpassed many special force members, the Dragon Brigade still didn't accept him. Everyone was startled. After all this time, the person they had to deal with almost became their senior. He escaped from the Shadow Recon team alone, and then infiltrated the Dragon Brigade to prove his ability to everyone. Su Yun. His ability was indeed proven. With this kind of skill, he was indeed a genius that only appeared once in 100 years. But because of his actions completely angered the higher-ups. A soldier's actions without any organization and discipline, there was no way he could become a special force member. And then, Chen Feng was fascinated by the story. Then, he took responsibility for his mistakes and was locked in prison. He jailbreaking of the prison, of course, before the prisons, of sovs of the world, he of sovs. In the end, no one knew how he managed to escape. Everyone was in an uproar. This guy was too amazing. So, this person is definitely not as easy to deal with as we thought. He's very likely to be the most terrifying mercenary group we'll ever face. Su Yun said. After he escaped from prison, the country arranged for a lot of people to hunt him down and put him on the wanted list all over the country. However, he still managed to escape from the border and became the king of mercenaries in Southeast Asia. No matter how powerful the king of mercenaries or how powerful the drug lords are, even the leaders of some countries in this place, they all have to respectfully call him Uncle Xiang when they see him. That old thing is pretty awesome. Chen Feng rubbed his hands together and said, Boss, if we destroy his nest, do you think we can shock Southeast Asia? Han Zhong was a bit of a wet blanket. Don't think so far ahead. You already know how terrifying our opponents are. How to rescue them is our top priority. Let's think about other things in the long run. Chen Feng didn't think so. No matter how powerful this Uncle Xiang is, he already knows the secret that he shouldn't know. We won't let him go. We can destroy his nest and rescue them at the same time, killing two birds with one stone. Isn't that a good idea? Han Zhong is right. We have to be careful. Our top priority now is to rescue them. Su Yun, we have to know ourselves and the enemy to ensure our victory. But now, other than Dong Xiang's ability, we don't know anything about his subordinates. If a person can achieve great things, he definitely doesn't rely on his own strength. He must have talented subordinates. We need to know the specific situation before we can make the perfect battle plan. But it's not easy to investigate this, right? Gong Sun Lang said, Boss, this mercenary group has hundreds of people. We can't investigate their identities one by one. Su Yun nodded. Indeed, we can't investigate them one by one. That's why we need to rescue Lin Guo and Wen Xiao. After all, Wen Shao has lived in this area for so many years. With his understanding of this place, he must know something important. We need his help. Boss, there's one more question. Can we trust Wen Shao now? Qian Feng said, "We don't want to lie to you. Before we came, we received a different mission from yours." Su Yun was startled, but he quickly understood. "After this, you want to capture Wen Shao, right?" "This is the chief's idea." Han Zhan explained, "Boss, I hope you can understand the chief's idea." "Yes, I understand." Su Yun, "A soldier's duty is to obey orders. You've already received the order, so you will naturally complete it. I won't interfere, but if you trust me, after this is done, I will persuade Wen Shao to take the initiative to go back with you. If he cooperates, don't make the atmosphere so tense. Just give me some face." Qian Feng immediately said, "Boss, as long as he doesn't resist, we will definitely give him enough face. After all, we used to be brothers. No one wants to fall out with him. As long as he doesn't fall out with us, we really don't want to do anything. We're just afraid that he will escape. If that happens, we won't be able to do anything. If he dares to escape, I will help you capture him." Su Yun promised. With Su Yun's promise, they felt a lot more confident. In fact, this group of brothers had never mentioned this matter because they had some misgivings in their hearts. They were afraid that when the time came to capture Wen Shao, Su Yun would not be on their side. If that was the case, they really would not be able to make a move. Facing Su Yun, forcing them to complete the mission would make them very uncomfortable. Now that Su Yun promised to stand on their side, this matter was much simpler. "Boss, with your promise, we feel more confident." Everyone's mentality was the same. They all hoped to get Su Yun's support. Su Yun smiled slightly. "I am a man of principles. And I believe that Wen Shao won't let me down. He will cooperate with you. He really needs to go back to receive the punishment he deserves and repent for what he should repent for. Let's not talk about this now. Let's first figure out how to save him." "Boss, you just said that Uncle Xiang is so awesome. The water prison key is in his hands. How can we steal it?" Bai Songguang frowned. "This path is directly cut off for us. Have you all forgotten who this bro is?" Hua Xiaolu suddenly coughed lightly. "Since I was born, I don't know what lock I can't open. My skill is passed down from my ancestors. Don't underestimate it." "That's right." Everyone slapped their thighs. There was a lock-picking expert right beside them. His ancestors were all awesome people. Not to mention these locks, even the locks with heavy mechanisms in the ancient tomb could be easily opened by Hua Xiaolu's ancestors. As a proper descendant, Hua Xiaolu certainly couldn't disgrace the skills left by his ancestors. It was just that, in the current mission, the locks that needed to be faced were too high-tech. It was too time-consuming to open them. The special forces preferred to use explosives, so they gradually forgot about Hua Xiaolu's lockpicking skills. Now was the time for him to show his talent. A strand of hair, a thin iron rod, they were all keys that Hua Xiaolu could use at will. Chapter 1846. Han Zhan patted his head. How could he have forgotten this? He should have told the two guys in the water dungeon that they had Hua Xiaolu. Breaking the lock of the water dungeon was not a difficult task at all. Uncle Xiang could just sleep with the key. He didn't need it. Then this matter is much simpler. Let's plan the battle. Whether we choose to attack or not tonight, it's up to you, boss. Han Zhan said, "After I go in, I'll take Hua Xiaolu and go straight to the water dungeon to rescue the two guys. You can arrange the rest." After that, Han Zhan picked up a branch and began to draw on the ground. His infiltration this time was not only to find the water dungeon, but also to observe the situation in the mercenary base. The layout of the base, the high and low places, presented a living map in his mind. Now, he needed to draw the map so that Su Yun and the others could also have a living map in their minds. Only when they had a clear understanding of the place could they have a good idea of what to do. Han Zhan drew very quickly, and the high and low parts of the internal structure were marked, allowing people to have a clear understanding at a glance. As a member of the Dragon's Fury Special Forces, everyone could present a two-dimensional map in their minds at a glance. This is where Uncle Xiang is resting. Han Zhan marked 2 important points, and this is where the water dungeon is located. I'm not sure about the rest of the places. As for the arrangements in those rooms, I didn't pry into them. There are too many patrols, and they patrol quite frequently. Su Yun's mind was very clear, and he quickly found 5 points on the map drawn by Han Zhan. These 5 points should be the 5 easiest places to hide in the mercenary base. Han Zhan, you take Hua Xiaolu to the water dungeon to rescue the 2 guys. The 5 of us will hide in these 5 points. If there are any problems during the rescue, we will attack the mercenary base from these 5 points at the same time and try to catch them off guard. If there are no accidents during the rescue, you guys leave quickly and use 3 nightingale calls as a signal, and we will retreat immediately. It wasn't easy to sneak in, and you want to retreat? Qian Feng was a little confused. Boss, although we don't know their overall strength, the 7 of us plus the 2 of them are very likely to succeed in a surprise attack against a mercenary group. If we rescue them, they will be more vigilant the next day, and we won't be able to launch a surprise attack. The effect of the attack won't be as good as it is now. Su Yun nodded. I've considered this problem, but I'm worried that if the 2 of them stay in the water dungeon for too long, they will lose their ability to fight. If we can get Wen Xiao to tell us about the enemy situation first, we will know ourselves and the enemy, and it will be easier to formulate a battle plan. In fact, all of his ideas were reasonable. Su Yun's method was more sensible, and could ensure everyone's safety. The most important point was that he had considered Lin Guo and Wen Zhao's situation. Han Zhan rubbed his chin. He also didn't dare to confirm the 2 situation. They don't look too bad, but they have been in the water dungeon for a long time. If they fight, they will definitely be affected. We have to act according to the situation. If there is a situation, we will fight at any time. If there is no situation, we will use the 36 stratagems to escape. Su Yun said, they are in the light, and we are in the dark. No matter what choice we make, we will have the advantage. With Su Yun's encouragement, everyone's morale was quite high. Under Su Yun's arrangement, except for Han Zhan and Hua Xiaolu, everyone chose their own hiding spot. After sneaking in, they had to hide in their own hiding spot. This was a process that absolutely could not go wrong. Su Yun used his own affirmation to give all the brothers confidence. No one can make a mistake. Success or failure depends on this one move. Get ready to move. After receiving the order from their boss, everyone entered into battle mode. In the dark night, 7 figures quietly entered the mercenary base. Even though there were so many patrol teams in the base, they didn't notice anything unusual at all. Han Zhan brought Hua Xiaolu to the water dungeon as quickly as possible. The 2 of them hid in the dark again. Han Zhan was mainly responsible for keeping watch for Hua Xiaolu. If there was any abnormal situation, he would signal him in advance to stop what he was doing and not be discovered. Hua Xiaolu was responsible for unlocking the lock. He was the most important person for today's mission. Success or failure depended on this one move. Once the iron bars were activated and the 2 giant crocodiles were disturbed, this mission would immediately fail, and it would definitely alarm the people in the base. Are you sure you can use hair as a key? Lin Ge really didn't have that much trust in Hua Xiaolu. This was too unbelievable. Hair. How could it be used as a key? It sounded too far-fetched. Actually, Wen Xiao also didn't have much confidence. He turned around to look at the 2 giant crocodiles and whispered to Hua Xiaolu, I don't doubt your lock-picking ability, but if any foreign object forcibly opens this lock, it will activate the mechanism. This F*CK, if the 2 of you have so little confidence in me, then fine. I'll leave. You 2 continue to soak. When you're comfortable, let them release you too. That's the safest way. Hua Xiaolu rolled his eyes at the 2. Although he said he would leave, his hands didn't stop moving. He pulled out a strand of hair from the small braid on his head. Hua Xiaolu was the only person in the entire Dragon Brigade who had a small braid less than half a foot long on his head. He had such a small braid because Wan Guangxiao knew that every strand of hair on his braid could be used as a master key. Seeing that Hua Xiaolu was about to use the strand of hair to open the lock, Lin Gu and Wen Xiao both focused their attention on the iron bars separating the giant crocodiles, waiting for the iron bars to be activated at any time. This feeling was really uncomfortable. "Brother Hua, can you give me a dagger?" Lin Gu swallowed his saliva and asked. Hua Xiaolu glared at him and said without any trace of politeness, "Don't disturb me. If anything happens, it's your own fault. I need absolute silence now, understand?" After saying that, Hua Xiaolu pressed his ear against the lock of the water prison. The strand of hair in his right hand reached into the keyhole. The whole process was very professional and silent. With Hua Xiaolu's warning, Lin Gu and Wen Xiao didn't dare to make a sound. They both quietly stared at the iron bars. The two giant crocodiles on the other side of the iron bars didn't seem to be aware of what was happening here. They floated on the water as though they were asleep. Han Zhan observed his surroundings vigilantly. If there was anything wrong, he had to inform Hua Xiaolu immediately. He couldn't let Hua Xiaolu be exposed. Han Zhan and Hua Xiaolu were probably under the most pressure. Everyone's next actions were in their hands. At this moment, Lin Gu and Wan Xiao felt as though their hearts had stopped beating. Hua Xiaolu was so quiet that it was frightening. Apart from the slight movement of his wrist, people knew that he was doing something. If they looked at him from another direction, it would seem as though he was hugging the iron bars and sleeping. Finally, a crisp cracking sound rang out. Although the sound was very soft, it was ear-piercing to the ears of the few people present. It was as though an explosion had just happened. Lin Gu and Wan Xiao immediately focused their gazes on the two giant crocodiles. The iron bars didn't make any sound. Their hearts, which had been hanging in their throats, instantly fell back into their stomachs. Phew! It was unprecedentedly easy. Han Zhan wiped off the thin layer of sweat on his forehead. He reminded them not to be careless. This was just the beginning. They mustn't let their previous efforts go to waste just because they were relaxed. They had to escape first to complete their mission. "How are the two of you? Are there any problems?" Han Zhan sized up the two of them. He took out a pistol and handed it to Lin Gu. "If there are no problems, follow us closely." "No problem." Lin Gu accepted the pistol and said confidently. On the other side, Hua Xiaolu handed Wen Xiao a dagger. Wen Xiao didn't say anything. He knew that he couldn't gain everyone's trust so quickly. He was already very satisfied with Su Yun's trust. Chapter 1847. Trust wasn't something that could be begged for. It had to be earned with one's own efforts. Wan Xiao knew why he couldn't gain their trust. It was because he had disappointed his brothers, so it was normal that he couldn't gain their trust. Wan Xiao took the dagger and smiled. "Thank you for coming to help me. Long time no see. You're still so narcissistic." Hua Xiaolu joked to break the awkwardness. "We didn't come here to help you. We have our own mission. Don't flatter yourself." "Ha ha ha." Han Zhan frowned. "Lower your voice. Get ready to evacuate." Hua Xiaolu stuck out his tongue. They hid in the darkness and waited for a patrol team to pass by before sneaking out of the mercenary base. Uncle Xiang couldn't believe that someone could escape from his water prison with the crocodile. If he had known, he would have let Ding Kai guard the water prison himself. But there was no medicine for regret in this world. What had happened couldn't be undone. Uncle Xiang still did not notice anything strange. He was still thinking about his own problem on the bed. Where was Paboyu most likely to return to? At this time, Han Zhan and the other three had successfully escaped from the mercenary base. After they were a few hundred meters away, Han Zhan used 3 nightingale calls to signal Su Yun and the others to evacuate. That way, Wen Xiao could explain the situation to them. Knowing their enemy, they could launch a surprise attack tomorrow morning. They would definitely be able to take them down in one fell swoop. But the plan couldn't keep up with the changes. After Han Zhan's 3 nightingale calls, Uncle Xiang suddenly sat up from his bed. There were no nightingales in this place. The calls were obviously a signal between people. Everyone, pay attention. Uncle Xiong's order was so loud that it directly penetrated every room in the base. Su Yun and the others who were hiding in the dark and wanted to evacuate were shocked by the shout. Wasn't this old man's reaction too fast? He realized that something was wrong in such a short time? Su Yun knew very well that they needed to adapt. It was basically impossible for them to break through the encirclement now. The only thing he could do was to adjust his strategy in time and not be disrupted by his opponent's sudden awakening. Just as Uncle Xiong gave the order, the entire mercenary base was lit up. Wan Shao and the others, who had just escaped, immediately realized that something was wrong. Wan Shao looked in the direction of the mercenary base and said uneasily, "Not good, boss, and the others are in danger." "I don't need you to tell me that. What's the situation over there?" "We were already very careful on the way out." Lin Ge said, "Could it be that someone went to the water prison?" "Did you find out that we left?" Han Zhan was much calmer. He quickly sorted out his thoughts. Soon, he realized that they were the cause of the problem. In such a quiet night, there were no birds chirping at all. The 3 chirps of the nightingale were so ear-piercing. "I'm afraid there are no nightingales in this area. Let's go back and support them." Hua Xiaolu was the first to turn back. The other 3 followed. They could not let Su Yun and the others fall into danger. No one had expected Uncle Xiong to be so vigilant. His subordinate had already gone to the water prison to check. He ran back in a panic and reported, "The people in the water prison have escaped." Uncle Xiong's expression became very ugly. Everyone frowned. Ding Kai pulled the person in front of him and said, "How could they escape? Where's Crocodile?" The iron fence mechanism was not activated at all. Crocodile is still sleeping on the other side. The person said innocently. "What?" Uncle Xiong's eyes widened. He reached for the key at his waist. Impossible, the key was still with him. How could it be? And he didn't sleep at all. It was impossible for someone to steal the key from him. At this time, everyone realized that the other party must have outside help. And they were not simple people. They could even fix the lock with a mechanism and quietly take people away. If Uncle Xiong was not so vigilant, no one would care about Nightingale's cry. Uncle Xiong suddenly realized that Nightingale must have told the people in his base to evacuate. He was absolutely right. There must be enemies in our base now. Brothers, today is your chance to make a contribution. Do a carpet search. We must get rid of anyone who dares to cause trouble in our territory. Yes. The earth-shattering cry made the hearts of Su Yun and the others in the base beat faster. Su Yun had already taken out his dagger. Today's battle was inevitable. But now, he could only hide for 1 more minute. If he was a minute late, he would be in danger. Hiding in the dark was the best way to launch a sneak attack. Soon, the entire base began to move. Hundreds of people began to search. After all, this base was only the size of a palm. No matter how well Su Yun and the others hid, it was only a matter of time before they were found. Moreover, the other party moved too fast. In less than 2 minutes, 2 people passed by Su Yun's hiding place. The first person did not notice Su Yun's existence, so Su Yun held his breath and let him pass. The second person soon noticed Su Yun's existence. Su Yun immediately killed him without giving him a chance to shout. In fact, these mercenaries' reaction speed was very fast. If Su Yun did not have the advantage of surprise, he might not have been able to kill them in 1 shot. Su Yun realized that his other brothers must be facing the same situation as him. It was only a matter of time before they were discovered. Just as Su Yun was thinking about what to do, someone was discovered. Gunshots were heard and there was chaos. Su Yun did not have time to think and quickly stepped forward. At the same time, Qian Feng, Hua Xiaolu, and Chu Shi all stepped forward. Obviously, the first person to be discovered was Bai Songguang. Tut tut tut. Su Yun's gunshots were heard and the chaos instantly spread. In such a situation, The enemy had more people and they had fewer people. The more chaotic it was, the more advantageous it was for them. After realizing Su Yun's intention, the others also began to fire at the mercenaries. With such a dense group of targets, they could hit someone even with their eyes closed. Following the gunshots and screams, the other party began to fight back. This time, Su Yun and the others did not dare to act rashly. After all, bullets did not have eyes. In the middle of the night, no one could guarantee their own safety. After a round of shooting, Bai Songguang took advantage of the chaos to escape the enemy's encirclement and quickly retreated to Su Yun's side. Soon, the two sides were in a standoff. Because of the darkness, Uncle Xiang had no way to determine how many people there were because their suppressive fire was quite strong. Looking at their skills, he knew that they were well-trained people. In just a few minutes, more than 20 of his brothers were injured and 7 of them died. This kind of casualty had not occurred in Uncle Xiang's mercenary group for many years. Even Uncle Xiang himself could not remember. Damn it! Uncle Xiang cursed in his heart, but he still had to encourage his brothers. They have fewer people. We must annihilate them in one go. At this time, Han Zhan and the other 3 also returned. After a simple observation, they also quickly integrated into Su Yun's camp. Since the confrontation had already begun, there was no need to avoid it. Su Yun's meaning was very clear. They had to solve the problem tonight. There was no reason to stop the battle that had already begun. Boss. Wen Shao rushed forward. When Su Yun saw the dagger in his hand, he didn't hesitate to pass his assault rifle to Wen Shao. He also passed the magazines on his body to Wen Shao. Wen Shao was startled, but he did not refuse. He took the weapon and said to Su Yun, "Uncle Xiang has 3 tigers. One is called Ding Kai, one is called Jing Chu, and one is called Tian Lu. They are all experts among experts. We must not underestimate them." Chapter 1848. Are you sure this is the person who uncovered the information in Vulture's mail? Su Yun didn't want to fight a meaningless battle, so he had to be sure. If it was the other party, he would destroy them without hesitation. If it wasn't, he really didn't have time to waste energy on them. Wan Shao nodded. Uncle Xiang has already admitted it to me personally. He knows all the secrets that Vulture knows, and I am certain that Uncle Xiang does know everything. He has already begun to calculate the most likely place where Pa Bo Yu is most likely to appear. He will not easily believe what I tell him. Su Yun smiled. Calculate the most likely place where Pa Bo Yu will appear? Ha ha. He was afraid that he wouldn't be able to calculate it in such a short time. Only Su Yun knew where Pa Bo Yu was now. Brother, let's not talk nonsense with them. Let's just destroy their nest. Anyway, these people usually don't do anything good. Lin Ge said, this way, we can make an example of them and let the outlaws in the southern border area of Huaxia know that even the biggest mercenary group in this area will die if they offend us. Su Yun also made up his mind to get rid of Uncle Xiang completely. Remember Wen Zhao's words. Dong Xiang has 3 masters, and each of them is not easy to deal with. We must be careful when dealing with each of them. Most importantly, Dong Xiang's strength is outstanding. We can't estimate his strength, so we must be careful. Boss, if I'm not wrong, his strength is probably above our mentor, Wang Yi. Wen Shao was a little worried when he said this. Although he hadn't fought with Uncle Xiang, none of the masters who had fought with Uncle Xiang in this area survived. There were many top masters of the Supreme Power Realm among them. Su Yun smiled faintly on the surface, but in his heart, he was on full alert. It seemed that this old man was really a tough nut to crack. East Xiang, leave this person to me. None of you should have a direct confrontation with him. Remember, don't go head-to-head because of a moment of impulse. That will only put us at a disadvantage. I want each and every one of you to ensure your own safety. Do you understand? Understood. Su Yun's brothers were also in high spirits. Just like that, a fierce battle broke out in the jungles of Southeast Asia. Perhaps no one in this area could believe that this fierce battle actually came from Uncle Xiang's mercenary base. That night, almost everyone was watching this place. The base that Uncle Xiang occupied could be said to be the best place in the entire Southeast Asian jungle. It was deep enough, hidden enough, and had the best water resources. Moreover, the terrain was high, making it easy to defend and difficult to attack. In all aspects, this was the best feng shui location in the Southeast Asian jungle. Many people had hoped that they could occupy this place one day, but when they looked at their own strength and then at Uncle Xiang's strength, they all stopped. This was because they knew very well that with their strength, they were not qualified to compete with Uncle Xiang. Now that there was a war in this place, how could it not affect the hearts of all the mercenary leaders in Southeast Asia? Who on earth was it that did something they wanted to do but never dared to do? In addition to admiration and jealousy, these people mostly felt hatred. This meant that another group with absolute strength had risen in Southeast Asia. Otherwise, they would not have dared to challenge Uncle Xiang. The more powerful mercenary groups there were, the more their living space would be reduced. There was an old saying in Huaxia that went like this: peers are enemies. This was quite a philosophical saying. Although people nowadays paid attention to gathering together, those who made building materials and those who made building materials gathered together in the building materials market would attract more customers. Those who opened restaurants and those who opened restaurants occupied a street, letting everyone know that this was the restaurant street of the city. Only then would diners rush to this place to choose. However, this was a way of coexistence of cooperation and competition formed after all industries were saturated. If you were the only restaurant in a city, wouldn't you be earning all the money? For example, in Southeast Asia, if there was only one mercenary group, wouldn't all the business be handed over to him? Then, all the money would be in his pocket. Now that mercenaries were gathering together, it was the same logic as building materials gathering together in the building materials market. Let all the customers know that this place was for mercenaries. When you came, you could walk around and pick whatever you wanted. Whichever one had the right price and high quality, you could choose that one. Although this method had the meaning of cooperation, it was still inseparable from the saying, peers are enemies. When Uncle Xiang set up a mercenary group, the leaders of the major mercenary groups came for a meeting. Everyone knew what they were thinking in their hearts. It was like those so-called building materials alliances offering discounts. Although there was competition, no one could maliciously compete with each other. The reason why Uncle Xiang gathered these people together was not because he wanted to create a beautiful dream of mercenaries being a family. Instead, it was a disguised method of supervision and urging, so that these people would not maliciously compete with him. Therefore, the situation of Uncle Xiang dominating the entire Southeast Asia was now. Uncle Xiang's scheming mind was really incomparable to that of ordinary people. The gunshots continued. Under the unified leadership of Su Yun, everyone was like a hemp rope. Although everyone's cooperation was simple, it was quite effective. In less than 20 minutes, Uncle Xiang suffered heavy losses. Although his subordinates were all elite soldiers, compared to Su Yun's violent assault team, they were really lacking. Soon, even Uncle Xiang's 3 tigers realized that they could not hold on anymore. More than half of their brothers had been shot and injured, and the death toll had soared to as many as 28 people. Among the 28 people, more than 10 were killed by Hua Xiaolu. Sniping was still the best. 1 shot, 1 kill. Basically, there was no escape. Hua Xiaolu's target was also very clear. They were all snipers with sniper rifles. As long as he caught them, they would all be shot in the head. Uncle Xiang, if this continues, our brothers really can't hold on anymore. Ding Kai reminded Uncle Xiang. He was not afraid that more people would die, but he was afraid that the other party would break their morale. How could Uncle Xiang not understand this? But now that the confrontation was fierce, he could not raise the white flag, right? Even if he wanted to negotiate with the other party, he had to first suppress the other party's firepower. Otherwise, even if he had a conversation, he would not be qualified to ask for any conditions and requests. Blast them with grenades. Blast them out for me. Uncle Xiang was really anxious. Throwing grenades in his own base was blowing up his own things. But now, he had no other choice. This was his only way. Although Ding Kai was somewhat against it, he was also very clear that he did not have a better way. Uncle Xiang's prompt decision was probably the only right choice they could make now. The facts proved that although Uncle Xiang blew up a lot of things in his own base, he had turned the situation around. Su Yun and the others really did not expect that this guy would dare to throw grenades in his own base like crazy. The explosion forced Su Yun and the others to retreat. They had to retreat in time. Otherwise, they would be in big trouble if their arms or legs were blown off. After a series of crazy explosions, Su Yun and the others' bunker was almost blown up. Su Yun and the others were also pushed dozens of meters away. Lin Gu shook the dirt on his hair and spat out a mouthful of mud. He cursed. Is that old guy crazy? He's going to blow up his own base. He's desperate. Qian Feng also shook off the dirt on his body and said, "The mercenaries under him have suffered heavy losses. If he doesn't do something ruthless to us, I reckon that their morale will be broken by us. He's risking his life to suppress us. They must be trying to use the peace talks to stall for time." Han Zhan calmly analyzed, "If they can't suppress us with firepower, they don't have the right to talk. That's why they are suppressing us at all costs." Chapter 1849. Han Zhan's analysis was correct. Uncle Xiang's purpose of suppressing fire at all costs was to give himself the right to speak. No one knew what the situation was now. Uncle Xiang had no way to determine how many people there were on the other side. With such a strong suppressive fire, too many of his men were killed or injured. It was not a long-term solution to fight head-on. After the strong suppressive fire, Su Yun and the others were forced out of Uncle Xiang's mercenary base. At this time, Uncle Xiang also ordered thunderous battle to stop the attack. The suppressive fire just now required a large amount of military supplies. Although Uncle Xiang had enough military supplies, if all of them were used up in this battle, he could not guarantee that there would not be other guys who wanted to take advantage of the situation tomorrow. As the absolute commander of a regiment, he had to consider everything. He had to control everything in his own hands, devise strategies, and have a well-thought-out plan to ensure that he would not be defeated in the long run. Today's failure was due to Uncle Xiang's insufficient preparation, so he had to avoid making the same mistake. When the fire finally stopped, Uncle Xiang was ready to turn this battle of attrition into a psychological battle. He shouted first, "One Eye, I really didn't expect you to do this. We could have cooperated, but in this case, I'm afraid we can't cooperate properly, right?" Wan Xiao looked at Su Yun and the others and explained, "In order to gain his trust, I said that I wanted to cooperate with him. He was skeptical of me. He wanted to use me, but he didn't want to share the benefits in the end. Now that he said this, he probably wants to do something in the psychological battle." Lin Gu wasn't going to be polite. He rolled away from the crowd and yelled, "Don't even think about One-Eyed. He won't cooperate with you. I'm telling you clearly, I'm here today to take your head. If you don't disarm and get out of here now, everyone around you will die with you." He left the crowd because he was afraid that he would fall into the trap and be concentrated on by the other side. That would bring danger to everyone, so he stayed away from the crowd and provoked them. This kind of provocation could easily arouse the other side's anger, so the possibility of being concentrated fire was very high. After Lin Gu finished shouting, he rolled a few more times and moved to another location. Although this was the purpose of their visit today, it was too provocative to say it out loud. What Su Yun and the others didn't expect was that Uncle Xiang actually swallowed his anger. Faced with Lin Ji's provocation, he didn't get angry, nor did he open fire on Lin Gu. "Friend, I know that your behavior is against the etiquette of hospitality, but you should also understand our situation. I have to take every step carefully." In the face of a sly old fox's psychological warfare, the best choice to not be fooled was to not listen to what he had to say. Su Yun made a few hand gestures in the dark. Everyone understood what he meant and spread out in the form of a net. "Uncle Xiang, I can understand your behavior," Su Yun replied, "but we have no choice. You forced us to do this." Uncle Xiang was stunned. Other than Wan Xiao and Lin Gu, there was finally someone who responded to him. The other party was at least a member of the assault team. Friend, I believe that you should be their leader. I sincerely invite you to sit down and talk about anything. If we can share the benefits, wouldn't it be a win-win situation? Do you think this benefit can be shared? Su Yun smiled slightly. We don't see any intention of sharing from you. It was you who wanted to monopolize the benefits, so we had no choice but to save them. Misunderstanding, this is all just a misunderstanding. Uncle Xiang still tried to think of a way to explain everything. I'm a cautious person. Just as Uncle Xiang was communicating with Su Yun, he also used a few simple hand gestures to give some orders to his subordinates, 3 tigers. The 3 of them began to assign tasks to the rest of the mercenaries. In the dark night, Su Yun and Dong Xiang, one young and the other old, were fighting a battle of wits and courage 200 meters away from each other. The former had 8 elite soldiers around him, while the latter had dozens of armed mercenaries. If it's a misunderstanding, I still hope to hear your explanation. Su Yun smiled and said, but if this explanation is too far-fetched, I'm afraid I can't accept it. Uncle Xiang said confidently, don't worry, friend. I will definitely give you a reasonable explanation. After a pause, Uncle Xiang continued, now that my people have put down their weapons, you are welcome to be our guests at any time. You can be fully armed. I don't mind. I really don't mind. I can understand what you are worried about. Uncle Xiang, aren't you a bit too naive? If I bring my people in now, won't I be entering your encirclement? Su Yun laughed. It seems that you are a person who likes to underestimate your opponents. Just now, Su Yun's hand gesture to his brothers was to tell them to pay attention to the current situation, as the other party was very likely to encircle and annihilate them. Therefore, Su Yun asked them to spread out and expand their encirclement. Once they encountered enemies who tried to encircle them, they would kill them without mercy. This strategy was absolutely correct. When Su Yun asked his brothers to spread out and hide in the dark, the other party's mercenaries soon surrounded them and tried to encircle them. At this time, if Su Yun was lured into the encirclement by Uncle Xiang, it would be the same as taking the initiative to jump into a trap. When the other party's people surrounded them from behind, Su Yun and the others would be trapped in a situation where there were wolves in front and tigers behind. This would really force them into a desperate situation. Su Yun's ability to react ahead of time allowed them to take the initiative. As long as the other party's mercenaries came to surround them, they were all killed in the dark. Qian Feng's position seemed to be particularly good. There were already 5 people who came to his door one after another. These people were all arranged by Uncle Xiang's subordinates, 3 tigers. Therefore, their movements were very fast, but they were not cautious enough. Once they encountered an ambush, they would not be able to react at all. Besides, the brothers of the Dragon Fury team were too fast and fierce. As veterans of hundreds of battles, they would not give the other party a chance to shout. It was the same even in a fight between masters. If they could not kill in one move, they would be in trouble. No one knew what would happen in the next second. In the dark, the brothers of the Dragon Fury team had killed many of the other party's mercenaries. This kind of sneak attack was really cool. Tian Lu, who led the other mercenaries to surround them, did not seem to realize the situation at all. He was also very eager to solve the problem as soon as possible. However, the more anxious he was, the easier it was for things to go wrong. When Han Zhan suddenly appeared in front of him, covered his mouth, and tried to twist his neck, Tian Lu realized that something was wrong. He tried his best to break free from the sealed mouth and nose. Han Zhan immediately realized that this guy's strength was definitely different from the people he had met before. He did not dare to relax his control on this guy. Since he could not kill him in one move, Han Zhan's hands tightly restrained him, not allowing him to make a sound. Tian Lu also wrapped his legs around Han Zhan and covered Han Zhan with his hands. He was also afraid that Han Zhan would ask for help. The 2 of them were tied up in a ball. Tian Lu was controlled because the other party caught him off guard. Han Zhan was controlled because the mercenaries he had killed earlier were too easy. The sudden appearance of a powerful guy made him somewhat unable to react in time. In such a situation, Neither of them had the upper hand, but neither of them could make a sound. In such a situation, it depended on who could hold on longer. The person who could hold on until the end would definitely be the winner. Perseverance determined victory. Puff. Wan Zhao's stab in the back ended the tangled battle. Tian Lu's eyes were wide open until he died. He would probably never believe that he died in such a situation. It was not heroic at all, and it was meaningless at all. In this silent battle of wits, Su Yun won again. This time, Uncle Xiang's loss was even more serious. Not only did he lose the life of Tian Lu, but he also directly caused the death of nearly 40 of his brothers. Chapter 1850. However, at this moment, Uncle Xiang had not realized all of this. He felt that his plan of encirclement must have succeeded, because everything was too quiet. Therefore, he thought that the scale of victory must be tilted towards him. As long as he had the initiative, he would still be the king of this area. He wanted to see who could challenge him. Uncle Xiang looked at Ding Kai. Ding Kai looked at the watch on his wrist and nodded hard. He believed that this time was enough for Tian Lu to lead the men he had arranged to surround the enemy. Now, besides him and Jing Chu, there were also 10 of the best mercenaries in the whole regiment and some injured people who stayed with Uncle Xiang. At this time, Jing Chu was also ready. He had arranged for people to carry the seriously injured people away. If they did not suffer any fatal injuries, they would stay on the battlefield under the principle of not leaving the line of fire with minor injuries. There were 8 people with minor injuries. The rest of the injured people could not even lift their guns. Uncle Xiang, Ding Kai, Jing Chu, and the 18 mercenaries were prepared to respond and provoke them. As long as the other party dared to make any noise, he would order Tian Lu to lead the 40 or so brothers to surround and annihilate the enemy. They would definitely surround and annihilate the enemy. Friend, do you think that if you don't want to be my guest, you won't enter my encirclement? Uncle Xiang was so confident that he almost joked with Su Yun. But this is my territory after all. If you don't understand the situation, it's better not to talk nonsense. Su Yun laughed and shouted across the air, Uncle Xiang, I'll return this sentence to you. In fact, if he wanted to anger Uncle Xiang, Su Yun only needed to do one very simple thing. Just mentioning the things that happened in the past was enough to make Uncle Xiang emotional. People who had experienced the baptism of the battlefield should be very clear that calmness was the most important thing to win a war. People who lost their calmness would definitely lose the victory. There was no doubt about this. Su Yun wanted to win, so if he could anger Uncle Xiang and make him lose his calmness, it would definitely be a psychological attack. He would not let go of this advantage that he had. Uncle Xiang, I finally understand why Hua Xiao's special forces didn't want you back then. Su Yun suddenly said such a sentence. Not only was Xiang Dong dumbfounded when he heard it, even his brother felt a little surprised. Actually, it's not because you're not capable enough, nor is it because you sneaked into the special forces without the approval of the investigation team. It's because you're brainless. These words were like a heavy bomb that directly smashed into Uncle Xiang's heart. Uncle Xiang could not believe that a young man dared to talk to him like this and say that he was brainless. Moreover, he had never told anyone about his past. How did this guy know about it? How was that possible? Who in the world was behind all of this? They actually knew about his past and knew him so well. Everyone knew that knowing one's enemy was the key to winning 100 battles. Uncle Xiang did not want his everything to be known by others. Su Yun continued to provoke him. Anyone with a little bit of brain would not do such a thing. It's not only a sign of being brainless, but also a sign of showing off. It's as if he's the only one in the world who can sneak into the Special Operations Group without permission. Uncle Xiang, do you think I'm right? Humph. It seems that you've heard some rumors and believed them. Uncle Xiang sneered. He would not admit that he had done something stupid back then, but he was indeed angry. It's not up to you to educate me about whether I'm brainless or not. Today, I'll show you who's the brainless one. Ding Kai and Jing Chu immediately fired their guns. The 18 mercenaries who were still around Uncle Xiang were all ready for battle, waiting for the brothers who had surrounded them to respond. As long as this round of fighting started, Uncle Xiang would let the younger generation who challenged him know what it meant to be besieged on all sides. However, what happened next was completely different from what Uncle Xiang had expected. The people who had surrounded them did not sound the battle horn at all. Everything was so quiet. Other than Ding Kai's firing, no one in the other positions responded to them. What the hell was going on? For so many years, Uncle Xiang had never been in such a situation. Today, he really did not know what was going on. He was completely shocked. Just like that, his plan was ruined one by one, and he didn't even know what had happened in this crucial part. Uncle Xiang, oh Uncle Xiang, it seems that you really are brainless when I said you're brainless. Su Yun continued to laugh. We, as the younger generation, don't know what it means to be polite, so we'll accept the big gift you just gave us. I'm afraid that your plan to surround us is too simple. Do you really think that you can catch all of us in one fell swoop? Are you a pig? Lin Gu mocked Uncle Xiang even more mercilessly. Uncle Xiang's whole body was trembling. He was making a final effort to endure. Could it be that all the elite soldiers under his command were silently killed in such a short period of time? He could believe that the others were killed, but how could Tian Lu be killed without a sound? This was absolutely unimaginable. Why did things turn out like this? What the hell happened? Who the hell was this guy? How could he see through all his plans so easily? In today's battle, Uncle Xiang had completely lost. You're called Xiang Dong, but you insisted that everyone call you Xiang Su, Uncle. Look at you now. Xiang Su, you've completely lost, haven't you? Lin Gu continued to mock Uncle Xiang. Su Yun gave him the space to express himself freely, so that he could stimulate Uncle Xiang's heartstrings as much as he wanted. Finally, Uncle Xiang's heart was completely crushed by his opponent. The huge trauma in his heart even made him feel his heart and lungs tumbling, and a warm current gushed out. He knew very well that this was the qi and blood attacking his heart. If he hadn't realized that something was wrong in advance and swallowed this mouthful of qi and blood, he would definitely have vomited blood. In order to maintain the morale of these remaining people, Uncle Xiang would rather let the qi and blood attack his heart and suppress this anger. He would rather hurt himself than hurt his morale. To be honest, Uncle Xiang was really a talented general. Being able to command so many mercenaries and reach such a peak state, he really had a certain level of ability. Today, he would be utterly defeated. The smooth sailing of these years was also the reason for his failure. It was too smooth these years, so smooth that Uncle Xiang thought that no matter what decision he made, it was the right one. It was so smooth that everyone under Uncle Xiang thought that Uncle Xiang's decision would definitely lead to victory. Therefore, those who went to besiege Uncle Xiang were careless and defenseless, which led to the complete annihilation and the complete collapse. The root of all this was that Uncle Xiang and his mercenary group had been too smooth these years, which made them lose their judgment and awareness of danger. Su Yun just grasped this point. He put himself in Uncle Xiang's shoes and looked at this matter from Uncle Xiang's point of view. He made the most confident judgment, and then made the response according to this most confident judgment. This response could completely defeat Uncle Xiang. Therefore, Su Yun used the simplest way to face the attack. It looked like a battle with a great disparity in strength, but in fact, Su Yun had a huge advantage. Of course, this idea of putting himself in Uncle Xiang's shoes was specially reminded by Wan Guangxiao before Su Yun left Yanjing. He told Su Yun that if he met Uncle Xiang, he must first consider Uncle Xiang's most confident or even conceited idea, and then make his own arrangement of troops. Su Yun didn't feel too much pressure to win this battle. However, when all this was over, Su Yun also realized that the real battle had just begun. Uncle Xiang was not easy to deal with. He had 2 generals and more than 10 elite soldiers under his command. These were all threats that Su Yun still had to face. This time, Su Yun came here to eliminate the source of trouble. Therefore, before killing the last survivor here, it couldn't be considered a real victory. Chapter 1851. The mercenary base was brightly lit. Su Yun could see Uncle Xiong's trump card clearly. However, Uncle Xiong had no idea how many people Su Yun had. The feeling of not knowing anything was the scariest. Even if there were 100 people on the other side, he would know how to solve the problem. However, even if there were only a few people on the other side and he didn't see any of them, it would still make people afraid. No one could escape from this. When the situation was turning towards Su Yun's favor, they suddenly found that Wen Xiao had disappeared. The first to notice it was Hua Xiaolu. When he was arranging the ammunition, he inadvertently glanced at everyone and found that Wen Xiao was no longer in their team. Where is Wen Xiao? Why is he missing? All of this happened too suddenly, causing Su Yun to be caught unprepared. Everyone had an ominous feeling in their hearts. Could it be that they shouldn't believe Wen Xiao in the end? Brother, is Wen Xiao going to betray us? Lin Gu frowned. In fact, he was the one who had changed the most in the past few days. He had gone from not trusting Wen Xiao to trusting him. However, the sudden situation made him doubt Wen Xiao again. All of this was too suspicious. Su Yun was silent for a while, but he still answered very firmly, "If we can't believe Wen Xiao, it's meaningless for us to come here. Do what we should do. I believe that he must have his reasons for disappearing. Don't be distracted by this." Yes. Everyone obeyed. No matter what Wen Xiao did, as long as they were united, they would still be invincible. They would definitely be able to overcome all difficulties. The simplest truth that soldiers understood was that there was no mission that couldn't be completed, no difficulty that couldn't be overcome, and no enemy that couldn't be defeated. At this moment, a huge explosion suddenly occurred on the west side of Uncle Xiong's base. Boom! Flames were everywhere. The huge explosion caused the entire forest to tremble. Not only were the birds and beasts in the forest startled, even the Black Crocodile mercenary group, which was the furthest away from Uncle Xiong's mercenary base, had entered a state of combat readiness. What happened to Uncle Xiong seemed to be a warning to all the mercenary groups in Southeast Asia that something big was going to happen tonight. There was only one possibility for the huge explosion just now, and that was that the arsenal had been blown up. Otherwise, there wouldn't have been such a huge explosion. In a split second, Su Yun and the other brothers understood where Wen Xiao had disappeared to. Wen Xiao was taking advantage of this opportunity to sneak into the armory where Uncle Xiong and the others had retreated and directly detonated their armory. This time, they were completely out of ammunition. Wen Xiao's approach was, of course, smart, because Su Yun and the others had limited weapons and supplies. They only had so many bullets, and it would be over if they ran out. If they didn't cut off the place where Uncle Xiong and the others resupplied their weapons, they would only be left with the fate of being beaten up later. Now, it was much fairer for everyone. No one had a lot of bullets on them, so it was hard to say who would be able to last longer. After detonating the armory, Wen Xiao quickly retreated. Uncle Xiong and the others were still immersed in deep shock. Now, their only huge advantage was gone. Their base was no longer a base. Half of it was blown up by a grenade, and the armory was blown up. What kind of base was this? I'll make them pay with their blood. Uncle Xiong had completely lost his calmness. He had lost the weapon that he was most proud of. His accidental loss of control had completely changed the situation of the battle. The remaining people were all affected psychologically. They had completely lost their rationality and judgment that they should have. It was another confrontation of firepower. Bullets crisscrossed each other, filling the night sky with beautiful sparks. Su Yun and the others didn't need to hold back anymore. The other party's ammunition supply was cut off, and there was no difference between them and the others. Finally, at the last moment when everyone ran out of bullets, the time for tit for tat had arrived. Ever since I, Xiong Dong, came to this land, no one has ever been able to force me to this point. Today, if you can really defeat me here, then you'll be the king of the Southeast Asian mercenary circle. But I'll also tell you clearly that it's not that easy to be the king. Uncle Xiong was very clear that now that both sides had run out of bullets, it was time to talk with their fists. Su Yun sneered. He was really not afraid of fighting with his fists. Uncle Xiang, take your title of the King of Mercenaries and go to Hades to reason with us. We really don't care. Humph, you don't care? Aren't you afraid that the secret of Pabayu would be leaked out, so you came to deal with me? Don't you want to borrow that power to rule the world? Uncle Xiang said. Don't make yourself sound so noble. I look down on you Hua Xia Special Forces members the most. All of you think you're infallible. You think you're better than others? You think you're better than others? Pooh. Upon hearing this insult, Qian Feng could not stand it. Surnamed Xiang, don't King not know what's good for you? Aren't you just saying that the grapes are sour because you can't eat them? You know very well whether you're jealous or not. Let me tell you, don't use this trick. You've eaten dog shit, right? You know very well whether it's disgusting or not. No matter how good you say it, no one will believe you. We're better than you. Ha ha ha, you're guilty, right? Then why are you afraid that the secret of Pabayu would be leaked out? Uncle Xiang said. You're so noble, then why are you interfering in this matter? You have nothing to say. Su Yun said lightly. We're interfering in this matter because there are people like you. Since you're a senior and haven't harassed the Huaxia border for so many years, I'll call you Uncle Xiang. I can tell you very clearly that Pabayu is a taboo that can't be touched. It can indeed increase your strength, but if your mental state cultivation can't keep up with this increase in strength, it will also cause you trouble. Su Yun was very clear about this trouble. He often felt that his mental state cultivation was not sufficient. Now, he had to do a compulsory class every day to cultivate his mental state. This was because his strength and mental state were no longer proportional. Many times, the feeling of having a strong heart but not enough qi made Su Yun collapse. This kind of inner struggle and torture would make people fall into a state of obsession with Pabayu and the Zikihoa people. Su Yun had never told anyone about this feeling. He had always been suppressing it. Every time he felt that his mental state cultivation could not keep up, he would crave for the nourishment of the Zikihoa people and Pabayu. This feeling was like Smeagol's desire for the Lord of the Rings. It was truly the desire of becoming a devil. This feeling made Su Yun very afraid. He didn't know why he felt this way. However, Su Yun was very clear about one thing. Pabayu could indeed make up for the lack of mental state. However, it could also drive the improvement of the body's martial cultivation. Therefore, this cycle could never be reached. Moreover, as one's greed for the Zikihoa people and Pabayu became more and more serious, the gap between one's mental state and martial cultivation level would become bigger and bigger as one's strength grew stronger. This gap would make it harder and harder for one to bear the greed for the Zikihoa people and Pabayu. Eventually, the person who fell into this trap would become like Gru. Just like how the Lord of the Rings could control Gru, Pabayu could also control those who desired it and coveted it. Su Yun knew the horror of this, so he knew how to face it. He had to control his greed and desire. He had to raise his mental state cultivation as soon as possible. Only then could he get rid of that greed and desire. I'm not afraid of any trouble. I only pursue the power I want. Uncle Xiang said coldly, if you win today, it won't be too late to talk about this. But if you lose, then no one can stop me from obtaining Pabayu. No one can stop me from obtaining the power I want. I want you to know that the one who has the last laugh is the true winner. It's too early to say anything now. Chapter 1852. Su Yun didn't even need to think about it to know that if Dong Xiang obtained the Zahoya tribe and Poboyu, he would be defeated by his own madness. To be honest, Su Yun felt that this kind of person was really ridiculous. Just like Wan Xiao, he would sell his soul to his inner demons in order to obtain power. How abnormal was that? But how many people couldn't control their yearning for power? An expert's greed for power was like an official's greed for power, like a businessman's greed for money, like a top student's greed for grades, like a pervert's greed for women. It was an uncontrollable greed. But only those who could control it could achieve true success. An official who restrained his greed for power could often go higher. A businessman who restrained his greed for money could often earn more. A top student who restrained his greed for grades could often become a great talent. An expert could only become a true expert if he learned how to restrain his power. Su Yun did this very well, and this was definitely a quality that Su Yun had shown since he was very young. He also had a greedy desire for power, but he knew how to control it better. Since both sides had run out of bullets and the hand-to-hand combat had begun, Su Yun and the others didn't need to hide their numbers. He was the first to stand up and walk forward, followed by Lin Guo and Qian Feng. Immediately, Han Zhan and Gong Sun Lung, followed by Hua Xiaolu, Chu Shi, and by Song Guang, also stood up and walked forward. The last to appear was Wen Xiao. He was the absolute hero today. If he hadn't detonated Uncle Xiong's arsenal, they would have been beaten into dice by Uncle Xiong's men when they ran out of supplies. At that time, they wouldn't have any temper at all. They couldn't possibly charge forward while staring at bullets, right? After all, the other party was a well-trained mercenary, not a mess of people from all walks of life. Underestimating the enemy meant only one thing: death. Uncle Xiong carefully observed the place where the 9 of them had walked out from. There were no more signs of movement. 9 people, just these 9 people had beaten up the mercenary group that he had painstakingly built for nearly 20 years. Other than the 10 people that Black Dog took away, all of Uncle Xiong's subordinates were at the base. Every one of them had experienced countless battles, and every one of them had fought with the Grim Reaper many times. Such an elite mercenary team was actually defeated by 9 people. The group of nearly 100 people was now reduced to less than 20 people. The bitterness in Uncle Xiong's heart wasn't something that ordinary people could understand. So many years of savings, so many years of savings. In one night, everything was gone. Hua Xiaozi's special forces. Uncle Xiong smiled bitterly. But today, I'll let you know, under such pressure to survive, none of my subordinates, are weak. You're only able to reach this stage because of your own cleverness and luck. In terms of strength, you're no match for me. Yes, in terms of strength, we're no match for your group. Su Yun shrugged and didn't deny it at all. Unfortunately, it's your own cleverness that got you into trouble. It has nothing to do with us. If your people didn't try to outflank us, they wouldn't have been defeated by us one by one. You won't die if you don't ask for it. Qian Feng liked to make sarcastic remarks. Seeing the other party's expression getting worse and worse, he felt more and more comfortable. The people on Uncle Xiong's side had also stood up. Ding Kai and Jing Chu, these 2 strong points, couldn't be underestimated. The other 10 people were also the elites of the elites. From the beginning of Su Yun's sneak attack to the later tough battle, these people hadn't been injured. Just based on this point, it really reflected the strength of these 10 people, both individually and as a team. As for the other injured people, it might be easier to deal with them, but at this critical juncture, they couldn't be careless. They were all people who survived on the battlefield. It was normal for them to be injured. It was absolutely impossible to completely ignore these people. Bro, I think you look quite interesting. How about you accompany me for some exercise? Lin Guo was really unhappy now. He pointed at Ding Kai, who locked him in the water prison, and provoked, "The water was really cold just now, I want you to cool down too." That depends on whether you have the ability or not. Ding Kai's face was expressionless. As for why he came to this place to follow Uncle Xiong, no one knew. But judging from his temperament, he was definitely not a person to be trifled with. Judging from his state, he was definitely a member of Hua Xiao's special forces with rich experience. Uncle Xiong also tried to inquire about Ding Kai's situation, but Ding Kai didn't mention a word about his past. Later, Uncle Xiong trusted him and didn't ask much. After all, everyone had something in their heart that they didn't want to talk about. If you respected him, you should never mention this matter. The smell of gunpowder between Lin Guo and Ding Kai seemed to be ignited in an instant. Su Yun frowned and reminded Lin Guo, "Be careful." It was just a simple word, but the meaning was clear in Lin Ji's heart. He knew that Su Yun had smelled the scent of danger. He had smelled the terror of his opponent. Otherwise, Su Yun would not have taken the extra step of reminding him. "Brother, don't worry." Lin Guo nodded. His expression also became serious. He knew very well what he needed to do. At this time, it might not be a competition of strength, but patience. Han Zhan also walked up behind Su Yun. As the calmest and most mature of the brothers in the Dragon Fury team, he knew that at this time, he should share the burden with his brothers and pick a tough bone to chew. In that case, I'll also pick an opponent. I think you're easy to bully. With that, Han Zhan reached out and pointed at Jing Chu, who was beside Uncle Xiang. Wan Xiao said that Uncle Xiang had 3 strong subordinates, and one of them had already been killed by him and Wan Xiao together. The remaining 2 were obviously Uncle Xiang's right-hand men. Jing Chu's face twitched. He had a bad temper, and no one had ever dared to say that he was easy to bully. Today, this guy was the first one who dared to say that. Oh right, I forgot to tell you. I think I accidentally. Han Zhan was actually a low-key person. The reason he said such provocative words was to play a psychological battle. It was definitely a good thing for them to provoke the other party first. Su Yun didn't know whether to laugh or cry. These guys were actually starting to provoke people. Were they really that serious? These guys. Su Yun believed that they were definitely serious. This kind of behavior was just to confuse the other party. Chen Feng waved at Hua Xiaolu and Gong Sun Leng. Let's not pick the remaining 10 people. There are still quite a lot of people left. Let's see who gets the most kills. Count me in. Wen Xiao didn't say anything at first, but now he stood up. Chu Shi and Bai Songguang shrugged. See? They've already picked the healthy ones. That means they want us to clean up the mess. Those who got injured might just be unlucky. We can't underestimate them, right? There are quite a lot of people. No matter how many there are, we still have to deal with them. Bai Songguang also smiled. We have to get rid of all the difficulties for our boss so that he can deal with Uncle Xiang without any worries. Then what are we talking about? Let's go. Chu Shi grinned, showing his white teeth. He took the lead and rushed into the enemy's camp. With Chu Shi taking the lead, everyone rushed towards their opponents. Su Yun and Uncle Xiang didn't move. At this moment, their determination was a kind of shock to their opponents. It wasn't hard to imagine that someone at Uncle Xiang's age would have such determination. Su Yun was still young. Uncle Xiang was more or less surprised that he had such determination. Chapter 1853. Lin Ge could be said to be extremely unhappy with Ding Kai. Now, he couldn't wait to cripple Ding Kai's legs and throw him directly into the water prison over there. He wanted to let him have a taste of being soaked in cold water for a few hours. Let him have a taste of that feeling. Later, he would raise the iron bars that separated the crocodiles in the middle and let him have some fun. Who knew how many people had died in this perverted water prison? Today, Lin Ge wanted these people to suffer the consequences of their own actions and see how perverted this thing was. Now, Lin Ge finally had a chance to face Ding Kai one-on-one. He moved his wrists and twisted his neck. He sneered, "Consider yourself unlucky today. Now that you've met me, I won't be polite to you. When you locked me in the water prison, did you think that you would have a day like this? Hee hee. You didn't think that retribution would come so quickly, right? Just relying on you, I'm afraid you're not enough to play with me." Ding Kai was full of confidence. This confidence definitely came from his undefeated record among the mercenaries in Southeast Asia. Ding Kai had never lost in a one-on-one battle, whether it was before he defected or after he came to this godforsaken place. F***CK. Isn't this a little too arrogant? Lin Ji's face darkened. He quickly entered battle mode and attacked Ding Kai's vitals with Fierce Tiger Steals the Heart. Ding Kai's reaction was quite fast. He raised his hand to block and took a step back, trying to reduce the strength of Lin Ji's punch as much as possible. Lin Ge wasn't easy to deal with. Although Ding Kai's reaction was quite fast, Lin Ge suddenly withdrew his strength. If this punch missed, it would leave an opening for Ding Kai. Therefore, Lin Ge definitely wouldn't let himself miss so easily. And when Lin Ge withdrew his strength, Ding Kai obviously wouldn't miss the opportunity. He was like a cheetah with a sensitive sense of smell. The moment he suddenly smelled his prey, he relaxed. The moment Lin Gu withdrew his strength, Ding Kai quickly counterattacked Lin Gu. His reaction speed was so fast that it was unbelievable. Just when Ding Kai thought that he could kill his opponent in one blow, the situation took another turn. When Lin Gu suddenly withdrew his strength, he already understood that Ding Kai would not miss such a good opportunity to counterattack. Therefore, in the instant that Ding Kai violently counterattacked, Lin Gu leaned forward and attacked with a back thrust. This was rather sudden, so sudden that even Ding Kai had not expected it. Of course, he would never have thought that Lin Ji's withdrawal of power just now was just a setup. Lin Gu had executed this counterattack beautifully. No matter how fast Ding Kai's reaction was, he was still unable to dodge Lin Ji's ferocious punch. The punch to the chest caused Ding Kai to retreat a distance of 6 to 7 meters. Lin Ji's full-strength attack just now was definitely not something an ordinary expert could withstand. Even if he didn't defend in time and was hit by Lin Ji's punch, he would still be injured. This was under the condition that he had the Earth Terminus Chi to protect his body. If Ding Kai really wasn't injured by that punch, then it could only mean that he had a stronger body protection than the Earth Terminus Chi. Unless it was the Heavenly Xian Chi that really cares about the Heavenly Xian, then what else could be stronger than Su Yun's Earth Terminus Chi? Therefore, this was absolutely impossible. If one could really reach the Heavenly Xian realm and have the Heavenly Xian Chi to protect his body, how could he stay in this kind of place and be a mercenary? Besides, the only known Heavenly Xian realm experts were the Empress and the Drug Emperor. Not to mention Ding Kai, even Uncle Xiang didn't have that kind of strength. The reason was very simple. How could someone with that kind of strength be willing to stay in a small Southeast Asian jungle to be a mercenary? With Uncle Xiang's ambition, he would have already set off a reign of terror in the underground world. Ding Kai was injured, and his injury wasn't light. This was Su Yun's judgment, and he believed that his judgment was correct. Pigeon. Su Yun smiled faintly, and said to the somewhat confused Lin Gu, "Do you know which part of a cooked duck is hard?" Ah. Lin Ji's thoughts were all on Ding Kai, so when Su Yun suddenly asked him this question, he really didn't know what to do. "My mouth. It's good that you know." Su Yun nodded and smiled. Cooked duck? Lin Gu thought about Su Yun's words, and then glanced at Ding Kai. The moment their eyes met, Ding Kai's gaze clearly drifted to the lower right for a moment. Just this simple gaze, what did it mean? Based purely on the analysis of human micro-expressions, this gaze represented Ding Kai's guilty conscience. Even though it was just a fleeting gaze, it was caught by Lin Gu. Lin Gu looked at Su Yun again, and smiled knowingly. So it was like this. The current Ding Kai was a cooked duck, and all that was left was his stubbornness. Lin Gu, who had seen through everything, was in high spirits again. He sneered at Ding Kai and said, "My strength is too weak, right? All right then, I will now beat your stubborn mouth until it's soft. Let's see if you can still be arrogant." Ding Kai, who had already endured until now, couldn't escape anymore. He could only endure. As long as Lin Gu made a move on him, he had to fight him. Even if he had to die, he would do it. Chapter 1854. Jing Chu was also a person who was well aware of Ding Kai's current situation, so he was also very clear about Ding Kai's current situation. If Ding Kai was forced to continue like this, Ding Kai would definitely fall into a situation of eternal damnation. Once Ding Kai suffered a crushing defeat, their momentum would be severely damaged. Thinking of this, Jing Chu had no choice but to step forward to help. He had to help Ding Kai get through this. However, before Jing Chi could take a second step, Han Zhan's figure blocked his way. He raised his left arm and blocked Jing Chi's path. Han Zhan said seriously, "Your opponent seems to be me. If you want to help him, you have to step over my dead body. Since you want to die so much, I'll fulfill your wish." Jing Chu was an impatient person. When Han Zhan blocked him, Jing Chu immediately attacked. His hands were unpredictable like an eagle's claws, directly grabbing at Han Zhan's neck. If Han Zhan's reaction was delayed for half a second, he would probably be lying on the ground with blood flowing like a river. Jing Chu's index fingers were equipped with finger blades at some point in time. The finger blades were like finger gloves that were worn directly on the fingers. The sharp blades at the front could hurt people at any time and anywhere. It was a very dangerous close-range weapon. It was obvious that Jing Chu's finger skills were absolutely amazing. He was even better than Teacher Kato, who was known as the Golden Finger in Japanese blockbusters. Teacher Kato was using his middle finger and index finger to perform two-finger Zen Kung Fu. Jingu was using his index finger to perform one-finger Zen. However, after the two of them attacked, the gap between their opponents was too big. Kato made his opponent bleed while Jing Chu made his opponent bleed. Therefore, Jing Chu's strength must be at least 28 streets ahead of Kato. They were not on the same level at all. Han Zhan did not dare to underestimate his opponent. When he went forward to stop Jing Chu, he did not expect him to be so vicious. Now it seemed that these people who had been in the mercenary circle for a long time were far more vicious than them. Han Zhan knew very well when to have a trace of kindness and when to consider whether to spare the opponent's life. And now, the person he was facing must not be given any chance to breathe. Once the other party seized the opportunity, he would not hesitate to bite you to death. Facing such a person, Han Zhan had to bite him to death before he was bitten to death. After dodging Jing Chu's fatal attack, Han Zhan did not hesitate to counterattack. With a flick of his wrist, Han Zhan's sharp blade pierced out horizontally. It shot out like an arrow, directly piercing towards Jing Chu's heart. Jing Chu's reaction wasn't slow either. He was forced back by Han Zhan's saber. Although he didn't let Han Zhan take advantage of him, the distance between him and Ding Kai was getting farther and farther. Right now, Ding Kai had already been forced back many steps by Lin Ji's continuous attacks. What was worse was that Uncle Xiang had to hold on in order to stabilize the morale of the army. He couldn't show any signs of panic, because the leader of the other party hadn't moved at all. In terms of determination, Uncle Xiang was already old, so he couldn't lose to a young man. Therefore, Jing Chu had to provide help to Ding Kai at this time. Other than him, there was no one else who could provide enough support to Ding Kai. Looking at the current situation, Qian Feng and Hua Xiaolu had already suppressed the remaining 10 elite soldiers. Chu Shi and Bai Songguang didn't show any mercy to the injured soldiers. They had the upper hand and didn't give the injured soldiers any chance to breathe. The only person he thought would definitely not lose, Ding Kai, was at a disadvantage right from the start. All of this forced Jing Chu into a desperate situation. He knew his own importance too well. If he lost the confrontation with the guy in front of him, it meant that they were completely defeated. At that time, Uncle Xiang would have no choice but to take action. This was a situation that hadn't happened in their mercenary group for many years. Jing Chu's pride would definitely not allow this to happen to him. If it wasn't for Uncle Xiang saving his life, he would have died in some corner of this forest. Today was the day that Jing Chu had to repay his kindness. He had to defeat the opponent in front of him and then help Ding Kai deal with his opponent. Only in this way could Jing Chu turn the situation around. The current situation was very, very chaotic. They were already at the edge of a cliff. Jing Chu, who was pushed to the limit, madly stabbed at Han Zhan with his finger blades. The cold light of the finger blades was like a meteor shower in the middle of the night, densely attacking every part of Han Zhan's body. Han Zhan kept retreating to avoid Jing Chu's crazy attacks. Facing this kind of desperate confrontation, he had to calm down first. The current situation was advantageous to them. Even if they had to stall for time, it wouldn't be a problem. Come on. Jing Chu didn't cause any damage to Han Zhan after more than 10 consecutive attacks. He was a little angry and scolded fiercely, "Coward!" Seeing Han Zhan being forced back, Jing Chu tried to go to Ding Kai's side to help him again. Because just a moment ago, Lin Gu fiercely smashed Ding Kai's shoulder with a whip kick. Ding Kai could only stagger for 3 to 5 steps before he could catch his breath. This had become the norm in the confrontation between the two. If this continued, Ding Kai would definitely lose. However, just when Jing Chu thought that he had a chance, Han Zhan attacked again. Jing Chu was caught off guard and didn't have a chance to help Ding Kai. Didn't I tell you before? If you want to help him, you have to step over my dead body. Han Zhan's fingers nimbly twirled the dagger in his hand and played with it in a relaxed mood. On the other hand, Jing Chu's face was ashen and he was completely mad. Seeing that another mercenary's throat was pierced by Qian Feng's dagger, Uncle Xiang began to realize that his momentum was gone. That's right, his momentum was already gone. The current situation couldn't be clearer. Although there were only 9 people on the other side, they definitely had the upper hand in terms of strength. Ding Kai and Jing Chu could only bitterly hold on in a one-on-one battle. The others were no match for the other 6, even if they worked together. The remaining young man who hadn't made a move yet looked even more difficult to deal with. Uncle Xiang was no longer in the mood to continue fighting. If you choose to escape, then your subordinates will have died for nothing. Su Yun obviously saw through Uncle Xiang's wishful thinking. And I can't let you go. You're already old, and I don't want to bully the weak. Why don't we sit down and talk calmly? If you can put down your butcher's knife, maybe I'll let you live. Do you think a lie like this would mean anything to someone my age? Uncle Xiang sneered. If you'd let me go, you wouldn't have made such a big fuss. This time, you came with the intention of cutting the weeds and eliminating the roots. Su Yun smiled embarrassedly. Since I've been seen through, then I won't be polite. I just want to ask, do you think you can still escape? Then you're underestimating me. Uncle Xiang took a deep breath. Ding Kai, Jing Chu, I have a mission for you. Today, lead the rest of the people and stop them. Yes. This group of crazy mercenaries was like a suicide squad. They were already prepared to face death. Uncle Xiang didn't hesitate for even a second. He turned around and ran away. Su Yun didn't expect this guy to choose to run away. It was completely out of his expectations. A middle-aged man with such a status actually chose to run away. Damn. Su Yun cursed in his heart. He really overestimated Uncle Xiang. If he knew that Uncle Xiang was only at this level, he wouldn't have wasted words with him. He would have just attacked. Uncle Xiang broke into a run and Su Yun chased after him. Boss, be careful. There's too much danger in this damn place. When Xiao saw this scene and shouted a warning. If he wasn't surrounded by 3 people who didn't fear death, he would have escaped and chased after Su Yun. Ding Kai seemed to have been injected with chicken blood. He roared crazily and charged at Lin Gu. He looked like he wanted to die together with him. I'll fight you to the death. Lin Gu wasn't stupid enough to die together with him. Now that he had the upper hand, he leaned to the side and dodged Ding Kai's full-force attack. He turned around and mocked, "Do you think your cheap life is worth fighting me?" Chapter 1855. Even though Uncle Xiang had escaped, his last sentence was like a shot of adrenaline to his men. Not only did Ding Kai and Jing Chu suddenly explode and block Lin Gu and Han Zhan, the other mercenaries also tried their best to restrict the others to where they were, unable to leave the encirclement. Except for Su Yun and Uncle Xiang, the others still stayed in place and fought for their lives. Su Yun and Uncle Xiang flashed in the middle of the night, like 2 black lightning bolts. In fact, Su Yun was quite surprised. Uncle Xiang's speed was not inferior to his at all. It should be known that this old man was already in his 50s. Even if he was an expert, at this age, his legs had already begun to degenerate. What made him powerful was the strength of his state of mind and qi. But now, it seemed that Uncle Xiang not only had a powerful qi and a powerful state of mind, but he also had good skills that were not inferior to young people. Such an opponent really made Su Yun's blood boil. This kind of stimulation made Su Yun feel endless power rolling in his body. His strong desire to fight had been aroused by Uncle Xiang's powerful strength. Su Yun could not remember when it started. He would only have a strong desire to fight when he was facing an opponent who might be stronger than him. If the opponent was not to be feared at all, he really had no motivation to fight. Now, only a stronger opponent could give Su Yun a stronger motivation, and Su Yun would have more passion to fight. It was just like after the fight with Wen Xiao, when Su Yun defeated his inner demon for the first time, he began to change like this. Now, Su Yun longed to become an opponent with a stronger opponent, because only then could his strength be improved and his strength be tempered. Only then could his state of mind be improved by leaps and bounds. All of this happened unknowingly, so Su Yun still didn't realize what had caused the change in her. However, there was one thing that was certain. Su Yun's current situation was definitely positive and optimistic for him. This was the confidence that he had gained after fighting against his inner demons. The importance of this confidence to Su Yun was absolutely self-evident. Every time he overcame difficulties to fight against a stronger opponent, it was a fatal blow and suppression to Su Yun's inner demon. When Su Yun had enough confidence, the inner demon buried in his heart would never be able to rise again. Now that Su Yun was facing an opponent like Uncle Xiang, it was really a rare opportunity for him. Su Yun absolutely needed such an opponent to stimulate his warlike heart. After all, Su Yun was a warrior. His hot-bloodedness, his ruthlessness, everything about him had been gradually eroded away along with his life in the city. Only when facing such a huge pressure and passion brought about by such an opponent would his heart surge again and again. Uncle Xiang was still running away rapidly. To be honest, Uncle Xiang was not afraid of Su Yun. He just did not want to have such a meaningless fight. He could roughly judge Su Yun's strength. Although it was not above him, it was not much weaker than him. Once the two of them fought, it was very likely that he would be delayed. If Su Yun's group of subordinates killed all the mercenaries under his command and surrounded him, even if his Uncle Xiang had great abilities, it would be impossible for him to escape. Therefore, Uncle Xiang would never give Su Yun this opportunity. He did not have absolute confidence that he could kill Su Yun directly. That was why he chose to run away. Running away was the least risky choice for him. This was the old fox's choice. Where there's life, there's hope. No matter what the situation was, Uncle Xiang still had this secret. As long as he knew this secret, there was a possibility for him to make a comeback. Everything now was a thing of the past. So what if his mercenary group was gone? So what if his base was gone? So what if he lost his position in Southeast Asia? None of this mattered. As long as he found the little girl from Zixahoya and her piece of Pa Bo jade, then everything he had in Southeast Asia would be *T. Compared to that kind of endless absolute power, all of this was really worthless. Su Yun also understood this simple truth. Once Uncle Xiang escaped, all his efforts would be in vain. He could spread this news infinitely. By then, Su Yun would have to face more trouble. The more he thought about this matter, the more anxious he became. Su Yun's footsteps became faster and faster. Compared to Uncle Xiang, who was familiar with the jungle, Su Yun was not a local. Once he moved too fast, he would encounter something that he could not react to. Just as Su Yun followed Uncle Xiang and jumped over a collapsed giant tree, Su Yun felt that something was wrong the moment he landed. Then, the rope tightened and directly locked Su Yun's right ankle. With a whoosh, Su Yun was hung upside down on a thick branch. Uncle Xiang didn't stop when he heard the sound behind him. He just turned around and took a look. Then, he immediately slowed down. Ha ha ha. The heavens really had eyes. Who would have thought that this brat would stumble at such a crucial moment and fall into a trap set by someone? Mercenaries who lived in the jungle were very familiar with this kind of trap. No one would fall into it easily. Today, Su Yun fell into it because he was not familiar with this area. Uncle Xiang stopped. He couldn't help but feel lucky that everything had taken a turn for the better. At the same time, he felt like mocking Zhang Tai. Now, Uncle Xiang wanted to thoroughly mock Su Yun and let him know what it meant to be immature. Ha 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 ha. Who would have thought? Uncle Xiang smiled and walked to Su Yun's side. The king of the special forces of Hua Xia's special forces actually fell into such a small trap. If this news were to spread, wouldn't it be embarrassing? Su Yun's body was hanging upside down, and his whole head was filled with blood. Uncle Xiang, it seems that you are luckier than me today. This is not luck. Uncle Xiang said lightly, do you know what is called prediction? When you cross an obstacle that prevents you from seeing what is behind, you have to be prepared. It was not that I did not step on the trap, but when I realized that there might be a trap here, I had already activated my aura. Therefore, after I stepped on the trap, I was not suspended. Do you understand? Su Yun laughed. Yes, it seems that no matter what kind of situation I encounter, the old ginger is really spicy. Uncle Xiang is indeed Uncle Xiang. You can even predict this in advance. No wonder you wanted to join the Special Operations Group that year. You have this ability. Uncle Xiang was quite happy to hear this flattery, but he did not care about it now. It is a pity that I, a capable person, could not join the Special Forces. And you, a person with no ability, became the king of the Special Forces of the Special Operations Group. Haha. This is really surprising. Uncle Xiang, you can't say that. You think that you have the ability to join the Special Operations Group? Since I can join the Special Operations Group, why don't I have this ability? Su Yun laughed. Don't look down on people like that. What is this called? Looking down on people? Uncle Xiang sneered. This kid, he is already like this now, and he is still so stubborn. Humph, I want to see what other abilities you have. Let's see how much ability you have. Don't you think that killing you now is just a matter of moving my fingers? Where did you get the courage to challenge me? Uncle Xiang, I am not educated. Don't lie to me. You can kill me just by moving your fingers? Su Yun said disapprovingly, I think on this matter, you seem to have thought too little, right? When Uncle Xiang saw Su Yun's unfriendly smile, he suddenly had a feeling of realization. He suddenly realized that all of this was a F***king trap. Su Yun was right. Since he could think that jumping over might be a trap, why didn't Su Yun think of it himself? Impossible. Su Yun must have thought of it. It was obvious that he was willing to fall into this trap. Chapter 1856. By the time Uncle Xiang figured it out, it was already too late. Even if he turned around and ran now, it was already too late. This was a far cry from the huge advantage he had when he escaped. Moreover, he was only facing one person, who was not weak at all. If he still chose to escape, he would feel very vexed. Just as Uncle Xiang was suddenly enlightened, Su Yun had already taken out his dagger and cut off the rope that was hanging him. Su Yun did all of this on purpose. When he realized that he was in danger, of course, he could have avoided it, but Su Yun did not do so. Su Yun made a clear judgment. If he kept chasing Uncle Xiang, the possibility of him catching up with Uncle Xiang was very small, because their speed was very close. Once Uncle Xiang went to another mercenary base and received help from others, he would definitely be outnumbered and would lose without a doubt. Therefore, Su Yun chose to be willing to take the bait, and let the rope tie his ankle. His purpose was very simple, which was to let Uncle Xiang see that he was already hung up and could not be chased. In this way, Uncle Xiang would lower his vigilance and not choose to escape. Uncle Xiang did not let Su Yun down. He really stopped and came back to see Su Yun make a fool of himself. However, he did not know that this was just a trick put on by Su Yun. If you didn't see this trap, you would have cut off the rope in the first place. Uncle Xiang really gnashed his teeth at Su Yun. He really did not expect that this was not a trap that Su Yun had fallen into, but a big trap that Su Yun had dug for him. Now that Uncle Xiang was trapped in this trap that Su Yun had dug for him, Uncle Xiang had no other choice but to kill Su Yun. Uncle Xiang, sometimes it's easier to be muddle-headed. Su Yun said, Isn't it good to pretend to be a fool? At least I wouldn't feel awkward. Now that you're going to expose me, what should I do as a junior? Uncle Xiang sneered, Don't say such sarcastic words in front of me. Su Yun, you know what kind of person you are. Since your little trick has succeeded today, I won't waste time with you. How do you want to solve this? Tell me. Su Yun smiled bitterly and shook his head. Do you think it's possible for me to make you surrender on the spot? Executed on the spot? Humph, what law have I broken? Uncle Xiang said disdainfully, ever since I came to this place, I've never once harassed the Huaxia border. You came out of the country to deal with me, a person who hasn't committed any crime. That in itself is a violation of the rules. Don't talk to me about principles. Su Yun clicked his tongue. Why do I have to pay attention to principles? Do you think you didn't do anything wrong? It's a crime for you to escape outside the country. Now, all the corrupt officials who have fled outside the borders will be caught and sentenced one by one, not to mention a deserter like you. It is right for me to catch you. Uncle Xiang's eyes widened when he heard this. Deserter? Humph. I joined the army when I was 18. Even after I left the army and came to Southeast Asia, I have never been a deserter during a war. Don't put this label on me randomly. Ha ha ha, Uncle Xiang, I really didn't put this label on you randomly. Su Yun looked up to the sky and laughed. You said you have never been a deserter during a war? Then what you did just now wasn't running away. Was it just to lure me to this place? Oh, I understand. This is different in nature, right? Stop talking nonsense. Uncle Xiang's old face was exposed by Su Yun. He couldn't hold on to his face anymore. Of course, he vented all his anger. He didn't give Su Yun a chance to react. First, he secretly stepped on the rope that was still tied to Su Yun's ankle. Then, he fiercely punched toward Su Yun's chest. When Su Yun saw this, he knew that this punch was clearly not meant to be a punch. A seemingly ordinary punch often contained a huge explosive force. Su Yun was very clear about this, because he was also a person who liked to talk with his fists. He knew the power contained in the wind of a punch too well. Just as Su Yun was about to retreat, he realized that his feet had been tampered with. Although Su Yun had just cut the rope, one end of the rope was still tied to his ankle. The other end was firmly under Uncle Xiang's foot. In this way, Su Yun couldn't dodge even if he wanted to. Uncle Xiang's move was really ruthless. He didn't leave any leeway for Su Yun. Seeing that the punch was about to hit his chest, Su Yun had no choice but to block it with his arms. When the punch hit Su Yun's arm bones directly, the great pain and numbness made him feel very uncomfortable. It was as if all his bones had burst from the center. It was a terrible pain. Because the rope around his ankle was firmly stepped on by Uncle Xiang, Su Yun lost his balance and almost fell to the ground. Fortunately, Su Yun reacted fast enough. He was very clear about his current situation. If he didn't quickly cut the rope around his ankle, Uncle Xiang's next blow would probably take away half of his life. At the moment when Su Yun lost his balance and was about to fall, Su Yun unceremoniously inserted the dagger in his hand between Uncle Xiang's ankle and the rope around his ankle. Immediately after, Su Yun flicked his wrist and the dagger used the strength of his ankle to directly cut off the iron rod that was as thick as a yam's rope. Of course, there was a price to pay. Su Yun's ankle was also bleeding. Unfortunately, Su Yun didn't have time to feel sorry for his ankle. Uncle Xiang's attack came again. After breaking free from the rope around his ankle, although he suffered some physical pain, Su Yun was able to completely dodge Uncle Xiang's 12 ways of Tan Tue. Tan Tue was definitely a unique skill when it came to kicking. Su Yun was secretly surprised. He didn't expect Uncle Xiang to be more skillful than he thought. Once Uncle Xiang started his attack, he couldn't stop. First, he attacked with a whip, followed by cross ghost drill. A set of Tan Tue, which had been improved by countless practical experiences, was used by Uncle Xiang. After dodging Uncle Xiang's 2 attacks, Su Yun also got into a fighting stance. Good, if you want to play with leg techniques, then fine. Other than the 12 ways of Tan Tue, there was also the Jingwu Tan Tue. That's right, it was the set of leg techniques that Hua Yuanjia taught him at the Jingwu Sports Association. Su Yun was very fortunate to have met one of the successors of the elite martial Tan Tue when he was in the Divine Dragon Brigade. The two of them sparred many times based on the principle of learning martial arts. Su Yun also unknowingly learned this set of elite martial Tan Tue. He didn't hold back and took the opportunity to lunge forward, punch out, and kick with a cross. It gave Uncle Xiang a very powerful counterattack. Leg techniques against leg techniques. Of course, Uncle Xiang wouldn't admit that he lost to a young man. He attacked Su Yun again with a wheel smash move. However, Su Yun didn't dodge. Instead, he turned around and used a wheel smash move to meet the attack. The two of them fought leg to leg. Neither of them wanted to lose to the other. Uncle Xiang found the right time to make his move. Suddenly, he kicked out diagonally and went straight for Su Yun's waist. Su Yun reacted quickly. He used a thrust, pierce, kick, and spring kick to break Uncle Xiang's move. Right after that, Su Yun's ingenious move went straight for Uncle Xiang's vital part. Uncle Xiang's reaction wasn't slow either. He used a wind lotus leaf kick to break Su Yun's sudden attack. Fortunately, Su Yun didn't lose out either. He used a double spread kick to break Uncle Xiang's ingenious Mandarin duck chain kick. The two of them started a battle for the title of the God of Legs. The specialty of Tan Tue was that its movements were agile. It was different from 8 trigrams Tai Chi. It had strong explosive power and fast speed. Moreover, it mainly attacked the lower part of the body below the knees. Its purpose was to make the opponent lose their balance. Since both of them were using Tan Tue, it was a battle to see whose reaction was faster. In fact, Uncle Xiang had an advantage in terms of moves. Because Shaolin Tan Tue was a combination of Linchi Tan Tue and Arhut Fist, the upper part of the body's attack was also very strong. It mainly focused on the wheel smash and wheel smash. To put it simply, Uncle Xiang's Shaolin Tan Tue was, the hands were 2 doors, and he used his legs to hit people. Tan Tue had 4 hands, and people were afraid of ghosts. On the other hand, Su Yun's Jingwu Tan Tue was a pure leg technique. Other than the heart-gouging fist, it didn't have any moves from the upper part of the body's attack. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.